Welcome everyone to a very special episode of the Grappling with Life podcast. Obviously, I'm your host, Mohammed Yahiawi, and today we have a very, very special, it's the first time actually, we have someone from across the pond live on Zoom. I say live, it's pre-recorded, but we kind of got chatting over the past few months. And when I heard his story, I was like, this definitely need to have this guy on. And without further ado, I present to you Mr. Daniel. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Alaikum assalam.
Firstly, thank you very much for coming. I say coming. Thank you very much for logging in. I know
Thanks for having me.
So it's almost 8 o'clock here, and the time over there is I'm guessing 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Around 2:30. Almost 3.
Almost 3. All right. Poor Daniel's been hanging around while we sort out all the tech. So this has been a first, and inshallah, a first of many. So Daniel, I guess we're going to get started right at the beginning. I think we did discuss beforehand that you're going to give us a little bit of a flavor, because obviously it's a UK audience mostly. So where you brought up in America, and I guess I'm going to let you crack on.
Okay. I grew up in the New Hampshire, Massachusetts area. For those that don't know, I'm in southern New Hampshire, which would be about 45 minutes from Boston. And I'm sure people know, we discussed earlier, MIT,
Yep.
Harvard.
Oh, Harvard's in Boston, yeah?
Yeah, it's in Cambridge, which is really Boston.
Okay, interesting. And so Boston, we discussed that Whitey Bulger, if you guys seen the film The Departed.
Yeah.
He's from there as well.
Yeah, the Celtics.
The Celtics, Boston Celtics. Oh, Larry Bird, right?
Larry Bird, that's old school.
That's old school. Shaq played for them for a little bit, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did. Later on.
I wasn't really into the basketball scene back in the day.
What about American football? Were you into American football?
To be honest with you, that's one of the interesting things about me in jiu-jitsu is I wasn't really athletic at all when I was younger. You know, it was more into music.
Interesting.
I was into the music scene heavy. Not really.
Bone Thugs.
Sort of.
Because you got the lazy bone hairstyle at the moment, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the long hair. Yeah. My late wife, Allah yarhamu, used to tell me that if I cut it off, she'd kill me. So I still have that
to honor her, inshallah. Yeah. Mashallah. Okay, cool. So you grew up in New Hampshire. Talk us through your kind of early life.
Well, I was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts, which is a crummy, criminal-ridden, awful city. And my parents, at a very young age, brought me to New Hampshire, me and my brothers. You know, I have a large family. And I mostly grew up in the southern New Hampshire area, bordering Massachusetts. As I mentioned previously, about 45 minutes from Boston, Massachusetts.
So your ethnic background, Daniel, it's Puerto Rican, Taino.
Yeah, Puerto Rican. My father's straight from Puerto Rico, accent and everything.
Does he say papi a lot?
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
papi.
Dad, yeah. You got it. You know this.
Yeah, trust me, man.
But yeah, my father's from Puerto Rico. And my mother is Austrian, Lithuanian, and English. But they've been in America since the beginning. Like, actually, strangely enough, one of my ancestors happens to be Abraham Lincoln.
No way.
Yes, my ancestry is Native American because Puerto Ricans consist of Taino Indian, African,
and Spanish,
a little bit of Spaniard.
Yeah.
You know, and then so I'm Native American, and I'm also the people that came over and killed the Native Americans.
That's mad.
So figure that out.
So Abraham Lincoln, funny enough, I was reading a post the other day by this Instagram called Obsessed Wrestler, and apparently had like 300 wrestling fights, only lost one. You hear about that?
Really?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. So yeah, anyway, that's a really side fact. But more interestingly, okay, so Puerto Rican, brought up in was it? Let me see if I can remember. Lawrence, right? Then you moved over to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And how old were you roughly at the time when you moved over?
Oh, I was very young. Like
Right.
just a very young child, to the point that I have no memory really.
Right. Was it for like economic reasons? Was it because of the crime? Was it because?
I think it was economic, just better jobs, better living. New Hampshire to grow up in is a really nice place. It's a suburban area. We have cities and stuff, but it's a beautiful area.
So New Hampshire, is the Hamptons in there? So I'm being very ignorant, bro. Is that where the Hamptons are?
Not the Hamptons. It's funny because we do have Hampton Beach, but not the Hamptons.
Right. The Hamptons are outskirts in New York, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You can tell I watch a lot of New York-based dramas from back in the day.
It's impressive though, your knowledge of.
It's terrible, bro. Like I don't even know what's outside of London, to be honest with you. And I know what's like where New Hampshire is and whatnot. So yeah, it's interesting. Cool. So you went to high school in New Hampshire and all that stuff?
Yep, I did.
Cool.
I went to high school in Pelham, New Hampshire, which is still right on the border of Massachusetts, in which I actually happened to drop out. I was a
high school dropout.
Yeah, I was troublesome, man. I was always getting into fights in high school, and the school had a major problem with me with the just uncontrollable nature. Like I wasn't the worst, but I just had that attitude, like I'm not going to let some teacher tell me type of punk attitude. And eventually they asked me like, look, your credits are not doing too well because you just skip classes, you don't show up. It's better that you drop out. They actually
why do you think that is though? Why do you think you had that rebellious streak?
It's it's strange. I think I used to remember I dealt with some racism because overall where I grew up was a more Caucasian area.
Right.
And me being one of the only people of any type of color, Puerto Rican and stuff, sometimes you'd have comments at a young age, but when you grow into it, even when it's not happening as much, it still is something that you have a knee-jerk reaction. Everything in my eyes was like, oh, is that it? Because I did have, racial comments made when I was younger. So then I just had a chip on my shoulder due to that, as well as, you're a teenager, you're a troublemaker.
I hear that. We have the same thing over here, man. I mean, we have, growing up, we had the same kind of, I say chip on our shoulder as well. So that tends to kind of come out in a bit of a unfortunate way. And we kind of self-harm almost, like we sabotage ourselves. Yeah, no, defo, man. So you dropped out of school. What age, like roughly? 15, 16?
No. Around 18. Right when I turned 18, I think it was actually my birthday, and the high school principal. Right.
So that would have been like... So just to kind of, for the British viewers, because in the UK, how the school system is split up, you've got like primary school. Yeah. So you got primary school, which consists of, I guess, kindergarten and... what's after kindergarten, man? What's after kindergarten? Whatever is...
like first grade, second grade.
All that stuff, right? Then you got middle school, which is... What age do you go to middle school? Is it 11?
Yeah, around. I mean, it's with us, it's usually... it's not so much... because the ages vary, right? It's probably similar. It's primary, kindergarten, primary up to 5th grade. Then it's 6th grade to 8th, which is middle school. 9th grade to 12th, high school. So we've got the same. So when you say 6th grade, we call it year 6. So year 6 is 11 years old, right? 10, 11. And then you got year 7, which is like 11, 12. Year 8, which is like 13. And then 9, 14, and so on and so forth, right? But you guys have to stay all the way up to 18, right? So 17, 18 is high school, right? Oh, yeah.
Right.
Sometimes, you have people in 19 or whatever.
Right, because you get held back and whatnot and all that stuff. if you don't get the
Yeah.
right. Okay, right. So you kind of like went up to 18. So after 18, you go off to college.
Yeah.
Right. So you were
After
like,
year 12.
peace out after that. You were like, I'm gone.
Done with it.
Is
Me,
that
I just wanted to be done with it sooner.
Is it compulsory education up to 18?
Yeah. It's up to year 12. The thing is, if you drop out, it's really up to you. Once you're 18, pretty much. It's once you're 18, it's your choice.
Right, I got you. But before that, you have to go. Kind of.
If your parents want you to. There's also homeschooling options and stuff, but yeah, it's if the parents agree to it in the courts and whatnot.
I got you. So you actually have to go to court to kind of take yourself out of school.
In some cases, if the parents and everybody agree to homeschool, you can actually do it through the school. And there's all this.
I see.
I did it with my kids, so it was just a lot of signatures and signing and letting the state know that you're homeschooling and whatnot.
Awesome. So you dropped out of school, and then what happened after that, man?
Okay, that's interesting because I dropped out with that chip on my shoulder because they actually asked me to drop out, which I didn't like the idea, but it is what it is. And I met a girl, and I happened to have a child at a very young age, around the age of 18. So around the age of 18, I'm becoming a father, you know, and living that lifestyle, like I said, it was drugs, drinking, and I wouldn't say I was over the top, but I was doing drugs and drinking. And like I said, I had a child. And not long after that, I happened to get married.
Wow.
Because even not being brought up Muslim, I always had that sense of, that being the right thing to do. And I didn't want to have a child and a baby mama. Yeah. I just didn't like that idea, that I have this kid over there and maybe, kid over there or whatever. So no, this is my first kid. And we worked things out, and I decided to get married around the age of 18.
SubhanAllah. And was she Puerto Rican as well?
No, she was African American.
Right. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So this was your wife. So you're married. You're 18 years old. You've dropped out of school. You got a kid, a boy, right?
Yep, a boy.
A son. So what happened after that?
That's actually where me becoming Muslim came into the equation.
Interesting. So what was your inspiration to kind of look into religion and actually, was it something that you've always looked at, were you a spiritual person, or was it something that, like, going through, I guess, getting married? I know when I had my kid, I had my son when I was 21, 22. So youngish, not as young as you, but your whole worldview changes, and you start to look at things a bit different. So I was just wondering whether it's the same for you.
Actually, it's really strange. My journey to Islam isn't the average journey to Islam. For me, I've always had a sense of spirituality. Right. I remember growing up, even as a child, like if I said something really wrong, I would immediately be like, "Oh God, I'm sorry." So when I look back, say, Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala. And that's a blessing from him that I've always had a sense of fitrah, just the, original way that people are, spirituality. And around the time of getting married, about, a year or two, I think it was a year into getting married, I remember I had gone to church and I left Catholicism to Christianity earlier.
So Puerto Ricans are mainly Catholic, right? Like the Spanish.
Catholic, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a friend, and I was in a rap group, and doing music. And
you got to tell me the name, bro. You got to tell me the name of the rap group. It
was called Mystic Liquid Click. It was just.
That's a rock group, bro.
Yeah, it was.
Mystic what? I love that.
It was more like the De La Soul vibe.
Ah, okay, yeah.
more conscious.
Yeah.
You know, and the guy went.
Most Def and all those.
Yeah, he went to church, so he started telling me about Christianity and, you know, Catholicism has saints and that's not in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just Jesus. So I started going to Christian church and I became a born again Christian.
Right.
And but after some time, I started falling off. It wasn't for me. I wasn't into it. Like, I deeply believed in God. I actually enjoyed reading about history and the Bible, biblical history, Middle Eastern history. I really liked that. I loved philosophy, you know, and really I enjoyed, as we said, politicking with my friends, psychics, you know, just talking about just life and introspection and things like that, and just society and spirituality. And I'll never forget one night with my wife, we were watching a program on the Bible, and they were talking about just outside strange views on the Bible. They're not regular views of the Bible. You know,
right.
Is there a code, and, you know, things that talk about the future. And it sparked off just that thing in my brain about, man, like, I haven't really looked at religion lately as much. You know, I was drinking and all that stuff. And I remember I told my wife the next morning, I want to search for God. This is actually what I told her. And she said, let's go to church. And I'll never forget, I said, you know, how do I know that God is in church? And she looked at me like I was crazy. And because the program was talking about the Jewish Bible, the first 5 books, the Torah.
So Torah, yeah.
You know? And
they call it Old Testament, right? As well.
Yeah, the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And I had this thought in my brain where, alhamdulillah, you know, I praise Allah for this. I just said to myself, you know, and I had told her, if I grew up in a green room and all I knew was shades of green and I never saw another color and all I saw was green, 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 could I even fathom another color, let alone say green is the best and brightest? And she looked at me like I was crazy at first, but that was the thought that I had, that how could this was the conclusion I had one morning, and it's from Allah, you know, it really is how could I be so arrogant and say it's Catholicism or Christianity, everybody else is going to hell, I'm guided, they're misguided, and I know nothing. I know zero about what anybody else believes. It would just be pure arrogance. So I told her I wanted to read about other religions. So I got a Jewish Torah, a translation, obviously.
Yeah.
And I asked some guys that were Muslim for a translation of the Quran. Strangely enough, they never told me anything about Islam because they weren't really, quote unquote, practicing.
So were they your friends, or was it just people you knew, or?
No, friends.
Okay.
You know, without naming names, fellow weed smokers and drinkers. You know, so
you know, subhanAllah, I don't want to interrupt your story, but subhanAllah, obviously for us, yeah, like, it's really strange the way Islam and America has got such a long and intertwined history. But they choose sometimes to ignore it, because we all know that a lot of the black slaves that were taken from Africa were Muslim. A lot.
Absolutely.
Some say, I don't know, I think the majority. Yeah. So
yeah, 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. So you can imagine Islam has been in America for as long as Americans have been in America.
Yes. Actually, it's funny because
or maybe even before, actually, because
they say that.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. You carrying your story in it, but it's just something that always intrigued me.
Yeah, actually, on a very brief side note, I read about that. It was 3 out of 5 African slaves, because they came from West Africa. Many of them from the area of Mali, which is Timbuktu, and one of the oldest universities in Islam was in Timbuktu. You know, some of the oldest manuscripts of Islamic writings happen to be from that area. So in Puerto Rico, most of the slaves were actually from there. They were Mandingo.
Wow. So, Mandingo. So fighting, Mandingo meaning Meaning fight. I watched. I'm just quoting Django, bruv. But I shouldn't take. I shouldn't take my history from a Quentin Tarantino film. I don't know if you've seen
No,
Django.
actually, they say that Mendengos were warriors, you know? So,
Right, because they.
alhamdulillah,
No, carry on.
Mendengo in my blood, Taino Indian, which were warriors, and then the Nordic part, Austrian, Lithuanian, so even some Viking.
That's
So,
it,
yeah,
bro.
I'm feeling pretty pretty tough and something. I don't know.
Subhanallah.
But yeah, this, you know, the slaves, actually, most of them were. So Islam has a history. You know, they even have, there's writings that are not famous of, there's actually manuscripts of cotton plantations that were written, the math was written in Arabic.
Subhanallah.
The account of how much cotton yields were written in Arabic, which means the whole myth of African slaves in the Americas being ignorant, not knowing how to read. No, they were very educated, many of them. Some of them were Islamic scholars. They have writings about them making sujood and all this, counting rocks, doing dhikr. But what they did is they, in order to control them, read the writings about Willie Lynch, because it even happened much later. But, you know, in order to control them.
Sorry, who's Willie Lynch? Sorry.
Somebody who came with a program of how to, you know, control the African American population.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's called the Willie Lynch letters. But even before, well before that, to keep the population under control, they wanted them to be ignorant. So reading was almost a crime, you know, such things like that. But it's funny because the history we're taught is like they were ignorant, they didn't know math or anything, when the reality is there's cases where the Muslim slave knew more math than the master and could read and write, and was taking it down in Arabic. So just a side note.
No, I mean, that's very important, because I remember when I used to teach, and I used to speak a lot to my black students, and I would say, look, black history didn't start with slavery.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, black history is rich way before slavery. Slavery is a footnote. If you take black history in its entirety, and that's the kind of illusion that I guess the white power wants you to believe, you know, and they're doing it again now as well. They're doing it again with Muslims now. They want us to believe that we are somehow these barbarians that went spreading Islam with the sword, and we choose to ignore the enlightenment we had. Like, for example, in school here, we learn, so we go through the Tudors, the Victorians, the different ages in British history, right? They got World War I, the Egyptians, the Greeks, and then they skip thousands of years where there was an Islamic enlightenment, and then land in World War I, World War II, and then so on and so forth, right?
It's true.
But we can't expect them to teach us our history, right? So I remember once my son came home with some homework, and they said that you have to draw a World War II poster, right? Encouraging people to join the war. It was like an art project. And so I sat him down. I said, listen, I want you to understand something. You know, World War I, World War I, World War II. Do you know how many African soldiers fought and died in World War I, World War II? You know, like, because when, I don't know if you heard of Brexit.
Yes.
Yeah. So after Brexit happened, when the vote was counted, and everyone voted for Brexit, basically, almost the next day, people were being approached. Imagine someone coming to you in the street and saying, "Oh, you can go home now, pack your bags." Some random civilian, because they thought that Brexit meant. And by the way, what's funny is we left Europe. Yeah, we didn't leave the world, right? We left Europe. And who got the brunt of it was the black and brown and Muslims and all these guys being told to by civilians who voted Brexit to say, "Get out of my country," basically. But they forget. So I said to my son, don't forget that North Africans died, Algerians died, Moroccans died, Libyans died in World War I, World War II. Black Africans died. So it's not something. So when you see these, during Remembrance Day and all this stuff, you don't really see that. Only now they're starting to kind of, the narrative slowly starting to change, but it's more kind of, how do you put it? At face value, more, not at face value, what am I going to say? It's like a tokenistic. That's what I meant to say. So right. it's important.
It's funny because, the history that even they do tell, they oftentimes Latinize it, Europeanize it. We all know, what is it? Abyssinia and Alvaros.
Yes.
Abyssinia, when they talk about the great enlightenment of science and medicine, and it sounds like a Greek guy. That guy's European, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
Abyssinia's Ibn Sina. He was Arab.
Exactly.
Alvaros was Ibn Rushd. And they Latinize it. So even the history itself, sometimes we get, it's brief. It's all brief, little shots. So, it's up to us to educate ourselves. One of my favorite quotes is by Samuel L. Clements. And he said, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. Samuel L. Clements, by the way, is the pen name of Mark Twain.
Right.
So he said, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. So even me being a high school dropout, I educated myself on politics, world religion, economics, because I want to, just simply because I was interested and I want to know. That's education. Schooling is a tool. It's a piece of paper. It's something that you take it and you go somewhere with it. It's a proof that some professor somewhere said that you are able to do such and such, or you're skilled in the areas of such and such. But an education is much more than that. So half the time I've actually noticed that I could go to a construction site and have a more meaningful conversation about world policy and more educated than I can with half the college kids that go to school for such.
Mad. And that's I understand why you do 10th Planet now, bro.
Alternative information.
That's it. No, I mean, but it's and the thing is, you speaking like this, you'll get labeled as someone who's quote unquote woke or whatever it is. It's ridiculous now. Like it's gone the complete other way, But okay, so you've dropped out of school. This so you started to read into the world religions. So let's pick up from there now. And
what happened is I got my hands on the Torah, Jewish translation, because I wanted to see what they had to say, footnotes or whatever. Got my hands on the Quran, and even the Christian Bible. I was saying, I'm going to reread it. Yeah. I'm going to reread it. We're not just leaving or something. I'm just trying to wipe my slate and start over, which is one of the hardest things for a human being to do. And anybody watching this, even besides jiu-jitsu, just in general, one of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself is almost try to wipe the slate clean, in the sense of try to view the world without preconceived notions and see what you see. And it's extremely difficult to do, because us as humans, all we are is a set of memories. Things that we learned that make us who we are. Very difficult to try to see the world without your preconceived notions. But I tried as hard as I could. And I picked up the Jewish Bible and I read the whole Old Testament. And then I would go on and read the New Testament. And then I would go on and read the Quran. Doing so actually made me extremely confused because I saw values, but I also was getting confused about how I was brought up, what was the truth, and I would pray all the time. My wife actually had thought that I was going crazy because as a non-Muslim, I was constantly praying by myself. And it's funny because there's a hadith to mention something, and I almost get emotional every time I mention it because, and I oftentimes forget the name, but the Prophet ﷺ had told us about someone before Islam who practiced Hanif. And if you know my story, it's so similar that when I first read it, I actually cried because what happened was I decided to go to a Jewish synagogue and a church and make phone calls and ask all types of questions because I was getting confused. I went to a synagogue and exactly the way the hadith goes happened to me. The rabbi actually told me, I'm not kidding. He said, have you looked into other religions like Buddhism or whatever? And I'm like, well, I have, but I'm here. You know, that was my thought.
Yeah.
I came to this Jew, I want to know about Judaism. And he actually told me, have you looked into Islam? Yes or no? I'm like, I mean,
so the rabbi
had told me like looking into Islam was like a good idea.
Wow.
And at first it had me kind of vexed because in my mind, I wasn't Muslim yet. So in my mind, I'm like, why is this guy like telling me about Islam and I'm here trying to learn about Judaism? You know, because my heart wasn't set yet on Islam.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I was actually more reading the Torah. So in my mind, I'm like, why is this guy trying to kick me out of, you know, like, what is this? And then I want to be part of your club, man. Well, I started thinking to myself, and it became very obvious when I researched Judaism more, you got to be Jewish to do Judaism.
From your mother's side, right?
Right. And if you convert, you know, without the history, it's kind of like, are you really Jewish?
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of had me a little off, especially when I was told, like, you know, like you should go look into Islam. And I was like, could I come back? And you could tell he wasn't really into that.
Right.
So I looked back into Christianity, even Catholicism reading, and I was more into the Christianity thing. And I called up, you know, pastors and ministers and asked questions. I even visited a church and so on and so forth. And in my readings, I got really confused. I tried reading the Quran, but at the time it made no sense to me because any Muslim's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Is I just opened up any page and I remember reading say, right. You know, say. And we know, now I know that the Prophet ﷺ, when he received the wahi, the revelation, Allah Ta'ala, God Almighty, would say to the people. I didn't know that at the time. So when I read the book, it said say, and I'm thinking to myself, like, am I supposed to say this? Is this like a prayer? Is the book telling me to say?
Is it instructions?
I thought it was telling me say. So I was really confused with that. And I just closed it. I'm like, okay, maybe not now. I got to research more about what this book is about because I think that's like a prayer part. I thought that it was telling me to say. You know, to fast forward, I remember reading along and I just got so confused. I had learned though that the Jews believe in Abraham alayhi salam, the Christians believe in Abraham, and the Muslims do. So I just read the Jewish Torah and followed whatever Abraham did. And I swear, uqsim billah, I swear by Allah, wallahi, I started making sujood. I started prostrating, and I didn't know that Muslims did that.
So what year was this? Was it the 90s or the 2000s?
In 19, you know, for those who are watching, I'm 43. So I was born in 78. It was 1999, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was making sujood. I was praying on my face, but I would put my hands like this with my face to the floor because I read a verse where it said he put his hands up. But in another verse, it said he prayed there. So in my ridiculousness, I put two and two together.
Mashallah.
Almost about 3 times a day, I would pray in sujood. I'd pray prostrating, following Abraham, knowing nothing about Muslims. And I had read that he believed in one God, absolutely one God. And one day I just came to a conclusion. There's one God. And I don't believe that, you know, Jesus, peace be upon him, is the Son of God or God incarnate. That's my conclusion. That's what I came up with by reading the Old Testament. Okay. And that's where I was. And I had picked up on a program on TV about religion, and I was watching one day, and subhanAllah, this was really a pivotal moment. It showed an old man making the adhan. And, you know, the old man beautifully, you know, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
And it was just like nothing I ever heard. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. It was so ancient. And, you know, it spoke to me. And I'll never forget, I even know what my wife was cooking. She was in the kitchen. I was sitting on the couch. She was making beef stroganoff. It's such a, you know, like that moment in your life where you can just immediately see it again.
Yeah.
And I remember the man made sujood. It showed Muslims praying. And I said, her name was Tamika. Allah yarhamuha. May Allah, you know, bless her and give her paradise.
Ameen.
She was a beautiful person. And she, you know, I remember I told her, I said, Tamika, come here, you got to see this. She's like, what? I said, just come here, I'm cooking. I said, give me a moment. So she came in our small apartment. This kitchen's right there anyway. And she looked, and I said, look, they pray like me. They pray like Abraham. Little do I know, I pray like them. But I said, look, they pray like me. They pray like Abraham. And she looks, and it's showing all the Muslims making sujood. That just did it. I had to know. Because they pray like I do. So immediately she's like, oh, what are you going to be Muslim now? I said, maybe, I don't know. Like, this is real. This is interesting. And I started reading the Quran. And, you know, fast forward, me and Tamika were reading the Quran on my bed, like knee to knee, like just sitting like this and passing it to each other. When I got tired, she'd read it. And I would read it. She would read it. I remember 3 a.m, we would, until 3 a.m, we read the Quran. Like how people binge Netflix, we binge the Quran. Walhamdulillah. And it just spoke to me, and it got to the point where the the subject of Tawheed and Shirk. That's, you know, the unity of God and worshiping other gods, more than one, became a thing. And it just spoke to me. I'm like, I know there's just one. There's just one, but not in the way that everybody on earth believes just one. Like, I mean one, no sons, no image, no coming to earth and making personal visits.
Yeah.
You know, that spoke to me. And I wanted to know, where's the masjid? So I remember the earthquake in Turkey. You guys should know. You know, we're around the same age.
Yeah.
Turkey had an earthquake, and there's that famous image of the masjid that's still standing.
Right.
Everything was floored to the ground.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember even the news, non-Muslim news stations like CNN in America even was saying that's like a miracle. Because if you see the image, it still exists all over the internet. Anybody wants an Iman booster, watch that. If you remember, everything is, I'm talking about nothing is standing. It is floored, destroyed, and the minaret itself didn't fall. It's a masjid amongst rubble. Everything is gone. Same thing happened during that tsunami, if you remember.
Yeah, the tsunami, I was going to say that, yeah.
You can see the foundations of buildings, and not even the minaret fell. You know, so that, I was like, wow. But it's from Allah. It really is. God sent. The number to a masjid was on the paper. It said the people of I can't pronounce it for the life of me, Soleimani Mosque in
Soleimani
Methuen.
Mosque. Soleimani.
Yeah, Soleimani Mosque in Methuen. They had it in a town next to me.
Oh, right. It was
praying
okay.
and taking donations.
So it's a Turkish mosque.
Yep. I took that, ripped it out of the newspaper, made a phone call. I visited rabbis. I visited priests, pastors, everybody. I've asked questions, looked into Buddhism, Rastafarianism. I want to know about Islam. When can I come? And they said, come around blah, blah, blah time. I visited the guys that I know that happen to be Muslim. And I just asked them advice. Like, you guys are Muslim, you let me borrow the translation of the Quran.
Yeah.
Anything I should know before going, because I'm visiting the mosque. Told my wife, you might want to cover your hair out of respect. and at least, cover your arms or whatever. Don't wear shorts, cover your arms.
Yeah.
Don't wear a t-shirt, out of respect. So he did. And that has to be the greatest moment of my life, because I went into that masjid and I had the intention of just learning. And I said, could you just explain Islam? I've sat like this with a rabbi. I've sat like this with a priest and a pastor. I've grilled everybody. Just explain Islam. I want to know. I've read the Quran. I'm in love with it, but I just need to know. And he was explaining the pillars. He was explaining, we believe in angels, we believe in the books, we believe in the prophets. But the thing that got me the most was the tawheed. When he mentioned, we don't believe God has a son. We believe God is without image. We believe that, even to think about what God looks like is sinful. That spoke to me. I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. We can't even figure out the human genome, let alone black holes in the universe.
Yeah.
They say, scientists say that a black hole, gets this light and time and space itself gets torn apart, and you're expecting me to believe there's an infinite amount of those and you can figure out what the creator looks like?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. So in my mind, it's like, who or what created that? You're not going to get an image. Your mortal mind can't fathom that kind of greatness. So the Islamic view of who God is, and then to find out the name Allah was neither feminine nor masculine.
Yeah.
Where everything in the Arabic language is feminine or masculine. But the name Allah, you can't even put a designation for a sex, because a sex is animalistic. And God is God. He's not a creation. He's the creator, but not the creation. And he's separate from his creation. Done. For me, that was just, say no more.
Where do I sign up?
That was the attitude I had. Say no more. I looked at my wife. She was to my left. Again, I can remember so vividly. And I told her, you don't have to follow what I'm going to do. This is my choice, but I am going to become Muslim. And she looked at me, the beautiful woman that she was, and she said, I want to be Muslim with you. So we took our shahada, our declaration of faith, in unison.
MashaAllah.
And I became Muslim on that day. And I will never forget the ride home. It was around the Asr time. The sun was around, like orangish, very beautiful day in the summer. And I remember her driving, because I said, just drive. I'm like, I was just too in emotion.
Yeah.
And I remember telling her, not that I want it to happen, but if this car were to crash right now, I'm good. I in my soul of souls, I'm good. I get it. I know where I belong now. I know what it is. And Islam, alhamdulillah, I praise Allah. It seemed like I knew it, although I didn't know it. It seemed so familiar, although I never heard it before. And that was always how I felt when I read the Quran. It's as if I knew this message, but I didn't know it. And that's goes to speak for our primordial state before we were born.
SubhanAllah. So you had your kid at the time as well, yeah? Your kid was already born. How old was your son at the time?
At the time, he must have been about 1 or 2.
Oh, so he was a baby. Yeah.
He was about 2 years old, I think. Yeah. Okay. Changed his name from Anthony to Muhammad.
MashaAllah. And how old is he now?
Oh, he's 23-year-old man.
23, big man, MashaAllah. Does he train? Does he do jiu-jitsu?
He's tried before.
He dabbles.
We just to impress his dad. he'll get on the mat just to try to have a moment.
Yeah. MashaAllah. But you strangle him, obviously, innit?
Oh yeah. I couldn't.
100%. Yeah.
I let him believe he was a little better than. Oh, you did good. Yeah. I really was struggling. You had really good experience.
So now you got the new chapter of your life now. So you became Muslim, and then. So how old were you at the time?
I was about 20, because I remember laughing, which is kind of funny for everybody viewing. I remember laughing like. Always was looking for a way to get alcohol. Always trying to find somebody 21 And then when I turned 21, I became Muslim and I won't touch the stuff. There's a bit of funny irony with that.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Alhamdulillah.
Good. So yeah, so I guess now we get into a different kind of trajectory now. So you've become Muslim. I know you said to me you went to Egypt for a little bit, learn Arabic and all this. So when did that happen?
Well, and I'll do a very quick one.
Yeah, how did it go from you becoming Muslim to like get into it?
After becoming Muslim, you know, I wanted to have more community because where I'm at, there's not much Muslim community.
Yeah.
So I had learned about Ahmed Didat and Zakir Naik, and I flew out to go to an actual debate with him and a Christian pastor, and they were going to debate about religion. And I went to Chicago and loved Chicago. There was a huge Muslim community, mostly Desi, South Asian. Yeah. And I had eventually moved to Chicago.
Right, you moved to Chicago.
Right.
So what happened? You moved to Chicago in a Desi neighborhood. Was it mostly Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, or Indians?
It was Pakistanis and Indians.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was Pakistanis and Indians, and I moved there, and that's when September 11th happened. So I was actually, you know, I'm Muslim pre-September. Yeah. So that was a really strange thing to be such a new Muslim and see.
So how long after September 11th? I mean, between you becoming Muslim and September 11th?
Almost about like 2 years, I think.
Right.
If I remember.
So relatively new.
Like year, 2 years, give or take. And wow, you know, I mean, I actually watched the second plane live on television.
So did I, man. So did I.
No, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I remember my wife's friend from the Muslim community, Jamila, she had called my wife, and my wife said, Jamila said that somebody, you know, somehow there was a mistake and a pilot they hit the tower. You know, that's what everybody thought, that it was a mistake in the landing or something. Somebody's flying too low.
Yeah.
Some mistake. And when I saw that second plane, I was like, oh, wow. The whole world, you know, like what is going on?
So what time was it? Do you remember what time it happened?
It was early in the morning.
So for us, I remember coming home from school, from college, which is like high school. So I was about 17. Right. And I remember seeing the second plane hit. And I was like, what the hell is going on?
Right, because nobody saw that level of terrorism before.
Never.
Like,
to be honest, we didn't even know what terrorism was before that.
Yeah, but it's like, for me, like we've heard about, because, you know, in America, they, you know, the similar group, you know, actually did the Twin Tower in the basement. You know,
yeah, the 91, I think it was.
Right, and so it's like people saw it before,
but
not at that level, and it's like in your face.
And you got the Oklahoma bombings as well, right? The white supremacist guy. And
building.
Yeah.
But everybody always saw the aftermath.
Yeah.
It was different to see a plane take down a building live. Like, what is going on? And then when you heard about, like, oh, wait, now it's Washington. There's another one.
Yeah.
Everybody in America, we were looking at the sky. Everybody, because you heard that there's these planes just crashing. I remember going out for some milk, and you just looked upward.
So you were in Chicago at the time?
Yeah.
So excuse my ignorance here, but how far is Chicago from New York?
Oh, that's hours now.
Oh, okay. Right. So is it down?
So, it's down to the east.
Right. Okay.
New York is down to the east.
Oh, see. So Chicago is near Canada, right? No, I said not that kind of way.
Yeah, it's more towards Canada, Lake region.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I remember that happened, and you know, immediately being Muslim was just like
public enemy number one, man.
Yeah. And my wife had started wearing a face veil.
Oof.
And if you know anything about my wife and me, is we were never the type to back down. It's like, I am who I am, and I'm not changing because society has a wrong idea.
Yeah.
So she was just not having it. She's like, look, I made this decision. I wear a face veil on my own choice. I'm not taking it off because people are tripping. So there was all types of things that happened. Fast forward, we were denied apartments, although accepted on the phone. Credit check, you know, the apartment's cleared. Saw me and my wife. She saw my wife. They're like, oh, the apartment's not cleared. We dealt with things thrown at us from cars. it was just awful. We moved back to New Hampshire.
So just to give you a bit of an idea, Daniel, yeah, over here, the next day, so September the 12th, I was on the bus and a woman came up. This is the first time I ever experienced something like this, yeah? Before it was just regular racism.
Right.
Yeah? Now you got another layer of you being Muslim, right? So I remember the next day, I was on the bus and this woman, it's like, I would say in her 50s, maybe 60s, came up to me and she was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's what she said to me.
Yeah.
I was like confused. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, look what you guys did. I was like, wow. Being 17 years old, I instantly knew my life is going to change forever.
Yeah.
And collectively as a Muslim community, our lives are good. That's it. It's, the world is different now.
Yep.
But anyway,
That's
so...
actually similar situation happened to me. Yeah.
Oh, is
Same
it?
thing. Me and my wife we almost got ran over. We were walking down the street in Chicago and a car swerved onto the sidewalk, grabbed my son, me and my wife, and went like this, and really went on the sidewalk, went off. And this woman got out of her car, very like butch looking woman, you know, and she was just like, you people did this. And my wife was like, did what? Like, we didn't do anything. What are you talking about? And, you know, at that time, nobody really knew. So we were still convinced the Muslim couldn't even do this. So we're like, how do you work with the Muslims? Like, get out of here. So the lady, you know, she drove off. Man, I don't remember if she did that first or after she yelled at us, but, you know, on the sidewalk. And my wife ran after the car, like looking at the license plate. And then there was these people, and I'll never forget, she was almost in tears. And she looked at all these people on the sidewalk, like just average Americans. And she's like, you know, like, why? And, you know, I remember those people like, yo, sorry. And I just, I'll never forget that moment, that same thing. Like, I just knew at that moment, like somebody just tried running me over with a child.
Crazy.
You're like, yeah, it's done. Like, this is not a great place to live anymore.
Yeah.
Which brings us on to another subject.
Yeah.
After that, I decided, you know, I don't think I want to be an American anymore. You know, I'm Muslim. I always wanted to learn more about my religion. At the time, I actually wanted to be a student of knowledge.
Okay.
You know, I really wanted to pursue learning Arabic and, you know, studying the deen, studying the religion. So, you know, we moved back to New Hampshire. I got a job. I was a butcher, but I cut through my thumb and cut off the tip of my finger. So I got really bad nerve damage in this hand. You want to beat me in a fight? Just do that to my finger and it's over.
Is that why you don't do gi?
Yeah, gi is awful in this hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's the reason I do that.
Yeah.
But so what happened was you know, I was working jobs doing you know, butchering and stuff, and I cut through my hand, and then I had to leave that job, and I'm in between jobs, and I had moved back to Massachusetts, and there was a guy with a Islamic website who started saying he needed somebody to work, and you don't even have to have knowledge, but he had a system of a program that he could teach them how to use to update the Islamic website. And it was supposed to be the ultimate Islamic website with forums and news and everything. And I actually got the job and moved to Texas.
Right.
So at this time now I have 2 kids. I have a daughter and my son. And moving to Texas, he actually realized it was too much for him to afford paying for me and running this website and working his own job doing programming and stuff. So he had one day asked me, you know, Daniel, would you like to move overseas? Because I will decrease your pay, but overseas, it will actually be a lot more.
Right.
And I knew people in Egypt. So he said he lived in Egypt for a short time. He's like, you could live off of $300.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get out of it. And I asked the people at the time in 2005, that was actually true. You know, it wouldn't be the greatest living, but you could do it. So we had ways of earning money because I had owned a tea business, but we were taking funds from that because I was going to shut down my tea business and he was going to pay me like a little more than $300 a month to see if I could pull it off, and you pay for the flight and everything.
So Daniel,
and we did it.
Every time you open your mouth, I hear another like interesting. But if you had a tea business,
Yes.
like, he just smoothed past that one. I was like, yeah, I had a tea business, and I also did this, and so this tea business. Just a nice little side note. Like, we don't have to go too deep into it, but like, what's the deal, bro?
I wanted to own my own business, and I was really into. Still, I love a good cup of tea.
Right.
Maybe I'm more.
But do you add milk to it though? That's the thing.
Huh?
Do you add milk to your tea sometimes?
No, actually, I don't.
Yeah, that's the only difference. Like when I was in Algeria, I remember I said to them, look, we add milk to our tea. He was like,
Yeah.
That's the response. Yeah.
Can't do that. That's actually the Desis do that, but the Arabs don't.
Yeah,
do that
the Arabs don't mess with that milk. Only in coffee, but. Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'll do it sometimes, but I like the tea black.
What's your favorite blend?
Oh my God. Don't even get me started. I like everything from Earl Grey.
Yeah.
But I also like sometimes matcha, Ujigen matcha green tea, and then anything from there's such thing, believe it or not, get your hands on sometime. There's Japanese black smoked tea, which is absolutely phenomenal. If you want a good cup of tea, try that sometime. Do yourself a favor.
I'll make some notes, man. I remember me and Zach, we used to have an office in what was it? Bethnal Green. It's a place, I would call it like Little Harlem.
Yeah.
I say Harlem. What's the most gentrified area of New York at the moment? Is it Brooklyn, right?
Oh my God, nowadays I can't even start. Everything is.
Yeah, but I mean, Brooklyn was like I think in New York was one of the first started to get gentrified. Yeah. So Bethnal Green was the same. Like you got Hackney, which is where we're from. It's kind of like I would compare it to like Brooklyn in New York, even though Brooklyn is probably 15 times the size of Hackney. But it started to get gentrified, and there was this like tea shop that me and Zach used to go to, and get they'd have like, if you can imagine, the whole wall would be filled with different, blends of tea and stuff.
Those were the best spots.
Yeah. So it was just two white guys that lived on a canal boat. Proper hipsters, man. Do you remember those guys?
Yeah. Love those kinds of people, man.
We used to have that, and then they would give you like so what they do, they give you a teapot, and they'd give you this like hourglass. So you turn it over, and they say once the hourglass is whatever, what's the word? Finishes, you kind of pour the tea. It gives you enough time to brew it and all that stuff. So it's very kind of nerdy. So yeah, that's why I said to you, like, you know what? Let me see what his tea knowledge is like. So it's on point, bro. So you had this tea business. Was it in Texas you had the business?
Actually, it was in Massachusetts, and I brought it with me to Texas.
Right.
But doing the job, I actually had to kind of like stop it. But my wife did another part of the business. It was called Bashira. So and she did natural herbal remedies to help women get fertility. But she actually helped 3 women get pregnant, which was amazing. Mashallah. They did testimonials on our websites. So we created a website, and I started selling tea and importing and exporting. I actually had some customers even in Britain, strangely enough.
Cool, man.
It was becoming something, but I wanted to focus more on the website. And I did move to Alexandria, Egypt.
Awesome.
I mean, I was so happy. I was in a Muslim country. I could hear the adhan. I wanted to cry. Like, oh my God, I could hear the adhan 5 times a day. Like, for Muslims, any Muslims that might see this who are living in a Muslim country, know how blessed you are for that. Just know how blessed you are just to hear the adhan 5 times a day, and perfectly normal to make your salah.
Yeah.
That you don't have to search for somewhere to go make your salah. You don't have to watch your back to make your salah. Anywhere and everywhere has somewhere you can pray.
Yeah.
That right there is a blessing. A lot of people look at the West and see the dunya part and see that as a blessing. Where us who grew up in the West, we actually look at the adhan and being able to pray anywhere at any time with anyone.
And everything is halal as well. Everything's halal. It's interesting. Around 2005-ish, I don't know if, did you meet a lot of British brothers over there? A big contingency from the UK went to, I know there's a lot of brothers that I know went to Egypt to study in the Jamia. Was it Jamia it's called? Jamia.
There were different schools.
Right.
I knew about Cordoba for the Arabic learning,
right,
and other ones. But what I started doing actually was working for the website, and as long as I got the job done,
like
it didn't matter if I got it done in 5 minutes, an hour, or all day. So what I do is crank out. I get some tea, drink it, and just crank out work in less than 2 hours sometimes.
MashaAllah.
And just go play in Egypt all day. That was my life and study. So I was starting to go to the dars of Sheikh Yasser Burhami and Sheikh Mohammed Ismail al-Muqaddam. And I was just trying to learn Arabic, but it was hard because I'm very stubborn. And I was not trying to learn Egyptian Arabic. I'm like, no, I'm going to learn Fusha or nothing. And I could start understanding some things in Egyptian Arabic, but it was really, my Arabic knowledge was absolutely awful. I could get by with some things, but it was really difficult. And
your kids must have loved it, man.
Oh, the kids loved it because I eventually moved from the city and went to a village.
Wow.
Right outside of the city. And it was the first time I could actually let my kids go to a shop
by themselves.
Just by themselves, because it was everybody in the village knew me. And the beauty of that is, touch my kids and you're gonna have a village, they're gonna kill you. So it's like it was a village that policed itself. So my kids were safe because everybody on the block knows the American kids and knows Daniel the American, and alhamdulillah, I have a very good relationship with everybody. And
did they have did they have the milk in the bags?
Yep. You know exactly. Yeah, the keys. I used to برتقال في كيس. You know, I wanted the orange juice and the sugar cane in a bag.
That's it. Everything's in a bag, man. Yeah.
No, unless you glass mugs or in a bag.
Exactly.
So it was alhamdulillah, but in the transition of an apartment going to another apartment, something happened where it wasn't finished being built. And subhanallah, I'll never forget this point in my life, because this was really the increasing of my iman, my faith. It was just amazing. Sometimes tragedy actually brings you the best moments of your life. And I left my apartment and went to another one. Well, I was supposed to go, and they said it wasn't built, but I was extended over on the other one. And I had to ask my friend who was building an orphanage, who did a lot of charity.
Right.
And this brother Abdullah, we would donate sometimes, and he was in the middle of finishing it, but it didn't have a roof on one side of the orphanage. And he actually accepted, like, you know, bro, I'll give you that place to move into. On the outskirts of the village, it doesn't have any hot water. It was in the middle of Ramadan. I didn't have a place. I didn't have internet access. So my job for the website wasn't happening. I was living off of sandwich meat, spread cheese, and bread. And I hadn't even eaten rice for almost a month. And me and my wife actually said it was the most beautiful moments of our life, because it was Ramadan and we were fasting and we barely ever could eat anything other than corner store Egyptian food.
Yeah. Book. Was it book, bro? The spread cheese.
Huh?
That spread cheese that you ate, was it book? Was it called?
Yeah, exactly. You know it, yeah.
The white one.
yeah. And we spread it on the Egyptian aish.
What's that?
It's these long bread. There's aish, and then there's other types of bread.
Right.
And we spread it on there with the luncheon meat.
Right.
And we literally ate that every single day. And it was Ramadan, and anybody that knows Egypt and Ramadan is you get woken up by the guy with the drum telling you wake up to, make, Siyam, wake up for Fajr, the Adhan, and then make your, before that, make your Siyam. And everybody gives them a little donation at the end of the month or whatever. That's Egypt, And
crazy.
I was living in a place that had no streets. It was dirt road, muddy, cold, mosquitoes everywhere. My wife would get her abaya and put it over the edge of the door so they wouldn't get through the window. And strangely enough, it was one of the greatest moments of my life, because sometimes when you're bereft of everything, you turn to Allah Ta'ala. and the closeness that you get to Allah Ta'ala when you have nothing. You know, and anybody that knows our religion and reads the seerah, the story of the Prophet ﷺ, knows that Aisha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, radiallahu anha, you know, if you read the mukhtasar of the seerah by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, you know, rahimahullah, he actually had mentioned in his mukhtasar that, you know, at any moment, Allah Ta'ala could have rectified that situation and said that Aisha during the ifk, the slander towards her, and showed that she didn't do what they said she did. But instead, some time progressed that even the Prophet ﷺ, Rasulullah ﷺ, he had asked her, you know, and Allah Ta'ala had her wait, and he actually explained why. So that the heart turned away from relying on people at all until the heart completely relied on Allah Ta'ala, with absolute reliance on Allah Ta'ala. And sometimes in our lives, if everybody would take a lesson, sometimes we read the stories in the Quran, in the stories in the Seerah, and we read them by themselves as the shell of a story without extracting the meaning. And in that story, every single one of us can just, if we would remember it when it's time to remember it, that when you are going through the most difficult time of your life where you feel like you have nothing, that is the time to turn to Allah Ta'ala, and inshallah you will find the greatest of Iman at those moments.
Amen.
You know, so that was one of those moments for me where like I could actually look back at the time when I'm eating nothing and say that I've never felt so close to Allah Ta'ala. And my wife even said, she's like, I have like an increase of Iman. And we had moved somewhere else. And, you know, we could get into that in another podcast if we're on again. But, you know, a place that earned me some trouble, and I went to prison and for my actions. But we had moved somewhere else. But I remember she even said, when we move, I actually don't want to move somewhere with money. Because we think about going to Dubai. And she's like, I actually don't want to. She's like, I want to live amongst the poor. I've grown an affection, you know, an affection for the poor. And I actually like this life. You know, I want to live simple. I want to live amongst the people of Allah Ta'ala. You know, because, you know, Allah Ta'ala, we know, you know, that the poor people are oftentimes closer.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you look at historically, when, for example, Jesus, who followed him, it was the poor. It was the sick. It was the weak. Same thing with the, you know, if you look at all, those are the ones that follow first. Yeah. And then the people of power after that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a wisdom even besides just the fact that oftentimes the poor are more in faith. There's also a wisdom in it that goes beyond that. That when you live amongst those who have less, you oftentimes appreciate what you have of more.
100%.
You know, because nowadays we live in the age of social media and everybody's saying, why can't I have that?
Yeah.
Why can't I have that? Women, why can't I be as pretty as her? Guys, why can't I be as big as him? Why can't I have his car? Why don't you look at the fact that Allah Ta'ala gave you 2 eyes, nose, lips? Allah Ta'ala gave you health. You have 2 legs. Why can't you think about the fact that you're going to bed in a warm bed? You ate some wonderful food. Even if it wasn't that wonderful, you ate food. And this is the problem of the modern age, that we don't, you know, appreciate. We're always looking at those who have more in an unappreciative manner, when reality is we should always look at those who have less, and you will find that the world is in front of you. You know, so
you lived that, man. You lived that. You went through that. And then I know there was a point where the situation with your wife, if you can just go a little bit, like how did you deal with that, man?
Well, my wife overseas had caught malaria. I did too, but she didn't survive.
Allahu Akbar.
And it's a situation that I don't even know. I wasn't with her. You know, I was doing something, like I said, I don't mind saying, that landed me in prison. Yeah. But she actually had been buried in an unmarked grave somewhere, evacuating another country. And I learned when I was actually in prison overseas, that my wife had passed away. And I was allowed to see my kids very briefly. And my kids actually gave me a lot of the information that happened, that I found out from one of the Muslim women that was with her, that her last words, actually, I believe it was even a British sister, believe it or not. But her last words actually were, could you open, she was going through fever and hallucinating. She said, could you open the door of the car for me? And they asked why, and she said, so I could see my husband. And she had passed away, and they buried her somewhere in a jungle on the side of a road. I had happened to be already incarcerated.
How did that feel, man?
Worst feeling in the world. Because my wife happened to be my best friend.
Yeah.
A lot of guys used to joke with me and say, hey, man, why don't you hang out more? Like, you know, like, inshallah. But the reality was, because my wife happened to legitimately be I know it's a cliche, but she legitimately was my best friend. Like, she was my wife, but my best friend. We did everything together. Like, we chop it up and hang out and talk and laugh. And sometimes just cutting vegetables, getting ready to cook was the time of our life. Like, the simplest things were the most beautiful things, because she was my company and I was hers. So, like, true soulmate, you know? And
may Allah unite you, inshallah, bro. In the hereafter.
Inshallah, yeah. I mean, and it just tore my heart out. I couldn't even believe it was happening. I remember even making dua, like, oh Allah, like, don't let this be the case. You know, so like I couldn't comprehend it. But I remember, you know, I just had to ask Allah Ta'ala for patience and forgive me for my impatience and, you know, my tears if they got too much. And it was really hard. It took a long time. And, you know, asking my kids what happened, you know, do they know? And my son didn't know. And my daughter saw her mother get buried. My daughter was only about 5 years old. And I remember her saying, I said, do you know what happened to mommy? And she said with the tiniest little voice, little adorable baby, you know, and she's 5. And she said, mommy got fever. Mommy got sick. They put mommy in the ground. Mommy went to Allah. And that just, bro, to have your child say that to you just wrecked me. And you know, eventually I would be brought back to America and incarcerated. And I was in Houston for 2 years, and they put me, because of my charges, they put me in solitary confinement for 2 years with no human contact. Because sometimes people think about the hole in the modern hole. If you want to imagine it, it's the size of a large bathroom with a desk, a toilet with a sink that's attached stainless steel, a bunk, but you're alone, and a stainless steel shower with a window that's like very thin.
Yeah, I've seen.
It's actually like scratched out except for one little part, so you can see out and get some light. And people get some misunderstandings, and they oftentimes think like, oh, you went to lunch with other people. No, I didn't. It's a bean slot, and they give you don't come out. They say 23. Huh?
At all, nothing.
No, they call it 23 and 1, because 1 hour you can go to rec, but in the hole, rec is a cage that looks like a dog kennel cage on top of a building. So sometimes you don't even want to go out. For what? People say fresh air, get out of the cell. Once you get used to that thing, you didn't want to go. So yeah, you had no human contact for 2 years. You know, so
not even the guards.
No, because they're behind the. If you want to call shackling me up and bringing me to when you do cell rotation. Cell rotation is every 23 days, so you're not like, you know, clawing out like a hole in the wall. They do a cell rotation, you know. But
so it's the cell that looks identical to what the cell that you're in.
Yeah, I mean, people like, if it's a corner cell, sometimes it's bigger. So after 2 years, or after a year and some change or whatever, you get used to knowing what's good. So you're like, yo, I like 101. That's the handicap cell, and there's no handicap guys, so because they need a wheelchair, you always want 101. And you see, that's how long I was in there, that I actually could tell you what cell is what. 101 is great. 123 was a corner cell that was pretty good. So it's the corner cells, sometimes they're bigger. And sometimes if it's one in the hallway, you're just looking at a wall, but sometimes you can see across to other cells and wave people down. And, you know,
that's nuts to me, man.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. No human contact.
So what would you get up to, man? Obviously you got your 5 salah. Did you allow to have a Quran in there, or any books or any?
Books have to be paperback, ordered from the publisher.
Right.
And then you could, they had a book cart. So I read everything from, I never liked fiction.
Yeah.
But, in that situation.
You read everything, bro.
Fiction, yeah, give me fiction because it's sort of like watching TV.
Yeah. Did you have TV?
It's like, that's my veg.
Did you have TV at all?
No.
No TV?
So
Nothing?
They did give you little radios so you could listen to FM and you could order it on commissary. And my family sent me some money. So you could get like, it wasn't Doritos, but like similar chips like Doritos. And then you could get mints, peanut butter, saltine crackers, these little candy things. And it wasn't much at all, stamps and envelopes and stuff.
What kind
like
of
that.
food did you get? Like the food that they give?
I mean, Wednesdays was hamburger
halal?
day.
Was it halal?
Yeah, you could get
Kosher.
common fare, which was like kosher.
Okay.
And then you had the regular ones, which was you could get no pork, regular one, and that's like hamburger day, chicken and all that. I got common fare, which is like kosher, and you just try to mix things up with commissary, but you just like again, sometimes the greatest moments of your life in retrospect were where you had the least because you gained the most closeness to Allah Ta'ala. It was the most soul-wrenching moments of my life because I just lost my wife and went through
the grieving
death.
process inside solitary confinement.
Yeah.
That's
You
nuts,
can't
man.
only imagine. Couldn't take a walk, couldn't talk to somebody, and then, besides my wife, a lot of my friends died. If you know the situation in which I went to prison for, I saw death. I've saw enough death to appreciate life. I've saw death at a massive scale, massive. But the amount of violence that I've seen is a human being should not have to see. But alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has kept my faculties. And, that's the first thing that I actually asked for.
Sorry, Daniel, to interrupt, bro. Do you still suffer from any sort of anxiety or related to your incarceration, or
sometimes I wonder if it is because I don't get the anxiety that some people talk about, like they're really freaking out, they don't know
PTSD,
where they are,
that type of stuff. Yeah.
But I will say that without a doubt, it changed me. I know that. I don't think it's just solitary confinement took some time to get over because being around people was really difficult. Other prisoners, I remember my mother saw me in a visit and she hugged me and I didn't like it. My own mother hugged me and I hated it. Just to have somebody touch me like that, it was too much. It was just kind of like, okay, he's back. That's how I felt. I didn't show that, but in my head, I'm like, okay, he's back.
So, bro, so I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions about this because for me it's intriguing, yeah. Because so you went from solitary confinement, and that was what year was this? You're looking at 2008, something like that, right?
2007 to 2008.
Right. So you're by yourself, then you go into I'm guessing it's called general population or Gen Pop, whatever it is, yeah.
Yep.
And this is in a supermax prison, right?
Yeah, it's like a supermax prison, high end.
So what kind of prisoners do you get in there?
Usually, people that have been involved in very serious things. You know what I mean? Usually some sort of organized crime.
Right.
It doesn't always. It's not what people think. It doesn't mean it's always just guys that want to kill each other and all that.
Yeah.
It's usually very high level, people involved in very organized things that they don't want them amongst too many codees.
So was there anyone like that we would know that you were that was in that prison at that time?
Nah, not always. It's weird. It's not everybody's always so famous, but I usually don't talk about that part because I don't know what guys. Some of the guys that I know.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Makes sense. Because
some people are weird about that. They're just I don't want no family knowing that I'm
No, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Some people, it's high end. They didn't want people to know where they were or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's weird in those kinds of facilities. A lot of the times, there's a lot more movement. When you're designated, you usually don't move. and there was a lot
When
more
you say
movement
when you say movement, what do you mean by that?
like people would transfer a
Oh, I
lot
see.
more.
Right.
Usually when you're still there, man. Usually a regular prison, man, you're there. Like unless you do something to get out, or you try to be close to your people, your family.
Yeah.
But now you sometimes see people come and go. It was really weird stuff. But the kind of charges that you get, to end up there, I guess that's, what, that situation.
So you sat down. So right, we say here in England, you sat down for how long in prison?
Altogether was like 9 years and some change, because I did get a lot of good time, because I made a promise to my children. I'm gonna stay out of trouble.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, good.
Try to see if I can navigate without fighting and stuff like that. Stay out of trouble, because to me, I'm like, I'm
want to see my kids. Yeah.
Their mother died, and they lost their father to prison.
Yeah.
These kids need me, so that was a top priority.
Alhamdulillah.
But
so you came out in 2014, roughly.
Yeah, I got out in 2015.
15, sorry. So we can smooth past this whole prison period, yeah? Because like I said, it's another podcast. Maybe go and what's that guy that interviews mobsters, bro? What's his name? Pat something. I forgot his name, man. He's in America. Right. The Iranian guy. He loves to interview. But for me, I'm more interested in, for example, now you've made your debt up to society. Right. You've reformed yourself. You're coming out. What was it like leaving jail? So the actual getting processed, and that we watch a lot of American movies here. There's that whole thing that they let you out, and then someone comes and picks you up, right? And then you're kind of like, okay, you got your bag or your personal effects, and then
that was real.
Yeah. So just talk to us about just that bit, and then we can carry on with it. Now we get to the jiu-jitsu journey, your martial arts journey, and all that stuff.
Good part.
Yeah, the good part.
I got out actually very atypical. Even actually looked very similar to the movies. It's kind of funny because there was a huge they brought me down these hallways and hallways and hallways that I've never been except for intake. I went down those hallways in intake. Yeah. And I didn't see them except for when I left.
That's nuts.
So I have my bag and all that stuff. I got to wear my free world clothes, and and I actually had met a sister while I was in prison, and we were talking through letters, and so we were actually intent on we'd get married when I got out. Yeah. So I was excited to see her on Skype. Yeah. That was oh my God, so that was a huge part too, to see my kids, see my family, see her on Skype because she was living overseas.
So Daniel, just a quick thing, yeah? So in that time you were in prison, Facebook came out, Twitter came out, Instagram came out. The whole world kind of changed, man, because it's like, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. How real is the kind of Shawshank Redemption, when the guy comes out, that the old guy, and it's like he went in the 40s, and
one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, amazing film, right? What was it as stark as that? You coming out and thinking, what the hell why is everyone on their phone, and what's the smartphone? Yeah. Or did you that bad? Yeah.
It was weird. It was very strange because I knew. Because we had a TV room, you could see TV.
Yeah,
you saw what's happening in the world, and you would even see COs in the bubble looking at their phones. Right. And I remember looking at the window even on TV, people doing this thing with their screen.
Yeah.
We didn't have touch screens when I was out. You could sit there and play a movie on your phone, play video games that looked like real video games. You could sit there and make camera calls and legitimately a good picture. What is going on? Man, that was just wild to us, and when I got out, it was just, it was weird, I remember being ready, and then the huge lift came up, just this enormous thing, because it's trucks are supposed to be able to go through.
Oh, so you came out the cargo bay?
Yeah, kind of. And I remember they had to bring me through there for whatever reason. I don't know. Then again, maybe they do it with everybody. I don't know. But there was a reason. I think I remember them saying, we have to, something's being done, or I don't know, if it's construction or washing. So I went through there, I had my bags, and my sister was picking me up. And as it went up, I saw their feet. And
That's nuts, man.
I told the brothers, if you guys see me, on the side, there's a window where you can kind of see guys bang on the window as hard as possible. But I used to tell them, I said, I don't care, man. I'm making sujood shukr right in front of everybody. I don't care who's there, what they're doing, what's happening. Man, the second I got out on the street, I made sujood shukr on the street, on the ground, the road where everybody's driving on. I was like, man, I'm dropping, man. I gotta thank Allah Ta'ala. And I just remember hearing those windows. Boom, boom, boom. And my sister.
And this was in Texas?
No, this was actually in New York.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So, because I got transferred after the Texas deal.
Right,
I actually became the imam of the prison and everything. So, but that's another story. So I was the imam. So I was giving the khutbah every Friday and stuff. But I remember going to my sister had brought me in the middle of the city, New York City. We went to New York City, and I remember walking down the street, and even on the sidewalk, the car is zoop. I'm like, whoa, just
everything's moving fast. Yeah,
everything's moving fast. And being in prison, everything's always so close. Walls are so close. So to see down the street so far after that long time, because you got to remember 2 years solitary confinement, and then like being where walls were never so far off. So it was just like, wow, to look down an endless street was really
crazy,
weird.
Man.
And to be around people was weird too, because, when you're locked up, it's dangerous. Like dudes fight real easy. Everything's about self-respect and, don't just talk to me anyway. So it's like to have people like walk right up on you, like wait in line right behind you. You kind of feel like, bro, you good? Like you always had like, I had to, that even now is difficult. Like people, how they talk to you. Because people like, everybody in prison is coarse.
Yeah.
And I actually, believe it or not, I'm always checking. I'm always trying not to. Understand this. Anybody that talks to me know that I'm always in a constant struggle to be polite. Because in prison, usually it's like people just talking to me like, yo, bro, like you for real? Seriously? Man, you crazy. And that's your friend. You talk to them like that. Like everything's just coarse, just rugged. Very coarse way to talk to people. But strangely enough, unbeknownst to most people, you are very respectful at a certain level. Like you can joke and you can talk coarse, but you don't disrespect a man. You respect his property, you respect his space, you talk to him a certain way because it will lead to a fight most of the time. So coming out is always difficult how people just talk to people any way they want. Like without fear of consequence. That was very difficult for me to calibrate. Even now, sometimes
it's worse now, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like people get real lippy, and I'm like,
Twitter fingers.
You're gonna talk like that to me?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm a violent person, but it's like, wow, you just talk like that with no fear of repercussions, huh? And but you got to keep it inward. It's just like it's not a problem. Just chill. You can't do that. You can't live like that. Just walk away. Because in prison you can't. You let somebody talk to you the wrong way.
Yeah.
You walk away, you're a chump, and now everybody's looking at you like they can talk to you like that. So you're gonna have a bigger problem by letting it slide than if you didn't. And you think like I would just let it slide. I don't want to. Believe it or not, it's a different world. You can't unless you want. By getting into one fight, you reduced 100 fights.
Yes.
And it's a sad truth. So you youngsters watching this, don't go to prison. Trust me. Everybody thinks it's all cool until, the only, and we'll move on from any other subject, but just to describe it, if anybody dealt with that situation where like you were about to get into a fight or something really horrible, or even if you were really younger and you got in trouble and you got to talk to your mom and dad later, or like there's this kid you're going to fight later, or your big brother's about to whoop you. You remember that anxiety, that tension, that awful feeling of the cops are looking for you, that really bad feeling something bad's about to happen and you're on the precipice of it. That's every day in prison. That's what you feel every day until it becomes a norm. You wake up scrapping up.
It's a heightened sense of anxiety, basically. It's fight or flight. Like you're just at the edge.
Yeah, every day. And then to explain time, minutes move like years and years move like minutes. And if you want to really know what living in the hell of prison is like, have you ever been somewhere where you look at a clock and you're like, I won't look at the clock. I'm not going to look at the clock. When I look at it again, we'll be 2 hours into going home.
It's like school.
It's
like school. If you're in a maths lesson that you hate, and then it's an hour, but it's actually 4 hours in your head. Yeah.
And imagine this. Yeah. That's every day. Imagine if you want to know what that does to your soul, that tension of fights and violence and trouble, and then the clock moving slow. You know, and I remember Michael Foucault in his book, Punish and Discipline, when he was explaining the Quaker method to solitary confinement. And he quoted somebody who visited somebody in solitary. He said, I see your cell is nothing but a horrible sepulcher, whereas rather than worms, time gnaws away at you, hell in anticipation. And that's prison. But
how'd you memorize that, man?
Huh?
How'd you memorize that, bro?
I memorized things that I really like. So.
That's interesting. Was it like, obviously, were you always a reader, or is this something that you picked up in when you were incarcerated?
Islam made me a reader.
Alhamdulillah. So before that,
read much at all.
Okay, before that you didn't read.
Islam got me involved in geopolitics, economics, world, anything that's happening in the Muslim world, which then reflected the whole world. And I just got into everything from economics and, not really so much economics, but sociology, philosophy. Before I was Muslim, then I kind of got away from it after being Muslim, but just wanted to educate myself on really everything. It's strange, just Islam.
No, it's good. It's a good thing, alhamdulillah, man. It's just, I just love listening to, like I said, I love listening to people's stories and how, they get to where they are, So let's pick up where you left off now. So you've come out. Now let's go into the martial arts history now.
Yeah,
we're gonna bring it home because we're gonna bring it home. The thing is, I could sit here. This is the thing. I could sit here for another 2 hours with you, 100%. And to be honest with you, we can do another podcast. I don't mind. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. But I want to get to your kind of your martial arts history, and let's take it home, innit?
Inshallah. Okay, this is really cool. Immediately when I got out, I had learned that my son was invited actually to an MMA gym. Right. And I was like, I want to try that MMA stuff, but specifically a lot of the grappling part. Because in prison, I don't care if you're the toughest man on earth, you feel so vulnerable. Mm. And I don't care what kind of tough guy someone is, they can't lie and say they don't. Because even if you're the toughest guy in the room, people can make a weapon. Yeah. Or people can jump you, all at the same time. All of them can stop beating on you. Or there's always a better knockout artist.
Yeah.
So it's, just keeping it real and being perfectly honest, and nobody can deny this. You go to prison, you feel vulnerable. They used to joke and make a comment where they said, even if you're the biggest killer, you're checking all your guns at the door. So, you can be Mr. Murderer. You check that gun at the door. You didn't come with the gun, so you better know what you're doing. Well, actually, my son, he was invited
sorry.
to one.
He
was getting into all types of trouble. He started drinking and smoking weed and not trying to be Muslim and all that stuff. That's a whole other subject. May Allah Ta'ala guide him.
I mean,
which broke my heart. But he started getting into all of that. You can imagine, no mom, no dad, kids at school, grandparents raising you.
Is he okay
really,
now?
The reality is the kids at school raising you.
Yeah.
Internet age. So, but I heard to get him out of trouble, one of the local coaches at an MMA gym invited.
Okay.
And one of the things, like I said, in prison, I don't care how tough you are. It's a scary situation. Everybody wants to talk about, I don't fear nothing, be big tough guy. Bro, it's natural to go into a place and go, wow, I'm in it. I'm actually in it. Like, these dudes don't play here, And, everybody here, a lot of them have bodies they've killed before. It's like, this isn't a joke, man. This is serious. So you learn real fast. Like, you better have an idea of willing to go. When the green light's on, you better go. Or it could mean your life, or at least get knocked out and horribly assaulted. So you know, getting out taught me like, man, that's important, knowing how to defend yourself. And even though I always felt I could fight, you know, throughout my childhood, I always was getting into fights, street fights. But, you know, and my father was a Golden Glove boxer. So I grew up with boxing gloves in the house. So he used to teach us, you know, basic mechanics of, you know, defense, self-defense. But it wasn't like we were like the best, you know, kids on the block.
Yeah.
You know, but I always did well, you know, in street fights. You know, I always defended myself well. But still, being in prison and even just witnessing that level of violence.
Yeah.
You know, and even just whether being part of or witnessing it, oh my God, like you really start realizing what works and doesn't work, what's realistic, what isn't. You've seen violence at a scale like, you know, fighting. You've seen fighting at a scale that you've never seen before. So I remember, and this is going to be interesting for everybody who does jiu-jitsu. I remember there was a dude who happens to be Muslim, and he's out now. We called him Ant, right? Or Ali, right? And this dude had to be, he was that guy, you know, that guy in the prison. And if you're gonna shoot him, a fair one.
Yeah.
No knives, no brute, no nothing, no sneak attacks. If you guys are gonna go in the cell and go for a fair one, he was the guy that, like, yeah, you might not want to do that. You know, we saw him beat mercilessly some of the biggest ogre-looking guys. I'm talking about like Shrek size. I mean, I'm being like, I'll give you, just to give you an idea. There was a dude that was just like you had to look up, and his arms were like the size of my legs, and Ant outboxed him, like just beat him to no end. Like, I mean,
where are the guards, man?
Huh?
Where are the guards at?
Oh no, you go, because this, you politic yourself in prison. There's prison rules, and then there's our rules. So sometimes you talk to a dude, you know, you let him know, like, yo, you want to go to the room? You talking all that talk? Come to the room, and you keep it low key.
Oh.
And then you have guys who tell them, like, yo, look out. Like, me and him are gonna go to the room. You know, watch for the guard. You know, bang on the door real quick. Let us know. I'm gonna bring him to the room. And there's all types of scenarios, like, don't walk in the room with him behind you, sneak attack you, you know?
Right,
so it's just like, you know, even you enter the room a certain way, man, you shut the door, sort that thing out. Sort that out. You know, let's go to the room. So, you know, and sometimes, you know, guys, we saw a little what happened, because there was times where we went to the room and the door slid open, and man, Ant with those hands, that was like, oh, it was like Mike Tyson. It was ridiculous. And I'll never
bare
forget.
knuckle.
Yeah, bare knuckle, brutal, bloody. I saw people get slashed in the face with, you know, makeshift razors, and a guy's nose got filleted, like the nerve. Yeah, it got cut right down the middle. I've seen horrible things. So suicides, the whole nine.
Whoa.
But so I remember Fat Ant, yo, he was brutal, and he had told me once, because sometimes in the TV room you could catch like the MMA fights, like the low-key ones, you know, certain channels, sports channels and whatnot. So I remember he told me, and he had that grimy street talk.
Yeah.
And they could, you know, so he told me, like, yo, you know, that's how he talked, like, bro, little bro. That's what he called me. He's older. He's like, little bro, I don't fear nobody with these. That's what he told me. He goes, I feel like the whole prison system, nobody, when it comes to these, nobody can touch me.
Is he a New York guy?
Yeah, around that area.
Right.
So he told me, he's like, but he's like, that ground game. He's like, I'll be honest with you, that's the only thing that scared me, is those dudes in MMA that can do that ground thing, whatever that is. You know, he had this weird way of doing this. It's like, whatever that thing. He's like, yo, that's the stuff that I fear. Like, you know, if one of those guys knew they throw me on the ground, I don't know what I'm going to do down there. And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
That stuck with me. I'm like, this man, I've never seen a more vicious, calculated fighter in my life than this guy. This is a guy that people feared going one-on-one with. And he was afraid of the ground game. Like, not afraid like that, but, you know, like, he knew he would lose.
Yeah. And
that struck me. So anyway, fast forward, I get out and I learn about this MMA gym. I like to try MMA in general.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu in specific. And they actually told me, yo, I went there. Okay, you know, got out of prison. Hope that's not a problem. You know, want to try this out. Want to do MMA. And he's like, well, the MMA program for adults kind of like fizzled a little.
Right.
But if you really want to start MMA properly, you start from the ground up, literally. You know, jiu-jitsu takes the longest to learn. You know, it's more complicated. And if you pick up striking, all that stuff, Muay Thai, you know, wrestling, you're going to get the jiu-jitsu. Muay Thai boxing, dirty boxing, all that stuff, Sambo, you could do that later. Start with jiu-jitsu was his recommendation, and I did. And I'll never forget the first night I tried jiu-jitsu. I put on a gi, and I go in there, and there was a guy named Lee. Looked like this, he's a white guy, looked like an office worker, you know, very polite. And if you were to look at me and him, I was actually much bigger when I got out of prison.
I can imagine.
And I'm not talking about fat, like I was just yoked.
So you were
compared to now, just always working out, you know, push-ups, all types of doing pull-ups on things. You get your mattress, creating makeshift weights. I was big because you just eat and work out. So I was much bigger. And you look at this guy on the street, you're like, oh my God, Daniel is just like, even attitude-wise, wrecked this dude. So I knew that I'm dealing with something that I've never dealt with before. You know, as a Muslim, alhamdulillah, we're taught humbleness. So I understood, even from studying deen, you know, that this is something I don't know, expect the unexpected. But still, that animal instinct of, man, I'm bigger than this dude. I'm coming out of federal prison, and what I did to go to prison, like, I'm at least like grab him and hold him at least. Like I'll be able to control him some way or another. He might do some sneaky stuff, but I'll be able to figure it out. No, not at all. Not at all.
Was he a white belt?
No, he was actually a white belt.
Oh, he was a white belt. Yeah.
He was a white belt, but he had some stripes. Brother, when I tell you, this guy, it was literally one of those, we all know it. We all know it. Who grapple, slap, bump, choke. That's what it felt like. Slap, bump, choke. Slap, bump, choke. I was just like, yo, this guy armbarred me, triangle choked me, rear naked choked me. And I was like, there is nothing, no matter how much energy I exert, no matter how much I try to think my way out, there was nothing I could do to him. Like, I was taken aback by how swiftly this guy could just destroy me at any minute. And being from a prison war-like mindset, I was like, man, if this
how tall are you, Daniel?
I'm about 5'10".
5'10", okay.
5'10". So like, I'm looking at, I never will forget, like, thinking to myself, at any moment, if this was Mortal Kombat, if this was life or death,
you'd be dead.
He killed me about 7 times. And there's nothing I can do about it. I was really fighting my way out of it. And I knew enough. I'm not stupid. I'm like, even if fists were involved, he was just wrapping me up like it was no joke. No gi techniques alike. And I had nothing I could do about it. At that moment, and I remember in an Eddie Bravo interview, Eddie mentioned this for his first day in jiu-jitsu, and I'll have to repeat it because it's actually just true, I think, for all of us. Your animal instinct is going to come through.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fight or flight. You're either going to be that guy that got so humiliated, he's like, I can't show my face, and I'll never speak of this. You know, people will ask you, well, how's that MMA stuff? Oh, bro, it's not for me. I'm a street fighter. You know how that goes. You know, I'm a street guy, bro. Just make some stupid excuse for why that happened. You know, it's either fight or flight. And for me, like I said, Eddie mentioned this in an interview, and I have to say it's the same mindset. You're telling me I could learn this? That's how I felt. Like, wait a minute. I could learn to do this to somebody. That's insane. Because it was done to me. So I know it's real. You know, it's not like some fake, if I do this, this will happen to you and I'm just playing along. Like, no, I fought for my life and I couldn't do anything. I need to know how to do this. This is real. I love it. And it's all a go from there. I literally was training every single day that I could. And I was actually one of the reasons that the gym started a more open mat, because I just kept on bothering the black belt. I'm like, listen, can we get more open mat? He's like, there's not enough guys. I was like, I'll rally the troops. So I was just trying to get as many people, come on, let's do open mat. I learned about no-gi. You know, I was way more into
so
that.
Daniel, A quick question. So who was the instructor? What kind of background was he? Was he like a Gracie Barra or was he just like
BTT,
a what? Sorry.
BTT, Brazilian
Oh,
top team.
Brazilian top team. Okay, right,
Yeah.
right, right, right.
With the Brazilian top team black belt named Roger Wu, and he was also an MMA instructor. So his credentials really good. And just oh my God, man, I just immediately got into it. It's funny because even when it comes to this,
Yeah.
it's funny because originally I was BTT in the gi, but I started falling in love with no gi. The speed and veracity of no gi was just, I loved it, and yeah, this is usually a part of debate. So buckle yourselves in for Daniel's unpopular opinions in the grappling world, or maybe popular, depending what you guys are into. But coming from prison, even with martial artists who are black belts, I'm like thinking to myself, like, yeah, you do, not necessarily my instructor or anything, but like many people who got into the debate, people would all the time be like, you wear clothes in the street. Because I was getting into no gi, and people would tell me like the best guys are in gi. Even the best no gi guys are guys who come from a gi background. Gi helps you no gi. I heard that debate. I heard the debate about that control, it's more difficult, so therefore you learn that, and then all types of things about why gi is better. And people wear clothes in the street then. And I'm going to be honest with you, coming from prison, all I could ever think about when people said these things, trust me, I know what street fights like, man. Like if you've ever been locked up in a federal prison, you've seen more than enough of what real fights that are meant to maim look like. And whether clothing works and doesn't work, in which way does it work? So immediately I understood that, no gi is more realistic in the sense, and here's the thing. Everybody who loves gi that might see this, hold your horses, don't jump to conclusions, let me explain myself. So I started falling in love with no gi and felt it was more realistic for the simple fact that everybody says you wear clothes in the street. And in gi, a lot of guys will start matches by grabbing, right?
Yeah.
We must understand that if you are in range to grab, you are also in range to get hit. And yeah, in jiu-jitsu, when you're grabbing clothing, he's going to grab clothing. But in a street fight, they don't know jiu-jitsu. And in street fights, people are headhunters. They don't even do body shots.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to fight you in the street, grab clothes. You're going to grab their clothing, and they're going to say, oh, well, he's doing jiu-jitsu, so I therefore must grab his grips as well. That's not how it goes. You grab someone's shirt, they're going to punch you directly in the face. I knew that. So immediately, I started looking at that like, now here's the thing. If after close clinching, overhooks, underhooks, wrestling shots, getting him to the ground, after being clinched up, yes, could you grab a collar and choke someone? By all means, yes, you could. Could you grab a jacket and manipulate him by that and hold him down and get a good grip and even, do a, any type of rendition of a gi choke? You could possibly if the shirt or jacket is thick enough. But the initial confrontation, self-defense wise, should be a no-gi wrestling type confrontation, because people can strike in the street and people aren't going to be playing grip grabbing with you. So you grab them.
It's about clinching.
Yeah.
It's clinch. I think, isn't 10th Planet based off clinch?
Yes.
It's all about clinch. Cause I heard Eddie speak about it as well, like multiple, and he talks about the clinch and how he likes to build everything off being in a clinch of some sort.
Even on the bottom or on top.
Yeah.
And this adds to what I was seeing. That's why when I got introduced to, which we'll get to, when I got introduced to 10th Planet, why I fell in love with it, even when I was a gi guy, is the way that Eddie teaches it, and I totally agree, is when strikes are involved. Yeah. Playing an open game is not a good idea, and we've seen that. Get somebody in your guard, wrap your legs around somebody and get them in guard. they can still punch you. Let's remind ourselves, Conor putting Khabib in guard and how well that Khabib just nailed him talking. We could even hear the let's talk now. Let's talk now. Bro, like, not a good idea. But if you have a guard where you can bring them down, clinch them, and you know how to move from clinch to clinch, now we're talking.
That's why I would have loved to seen. Sorry to keep cutting you, Daniel. That's why I'd love to have seen Tony versus Khabib.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Every grappler worth his salt.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, Tony's happy on his back and he's got a wicked clinch.
I was just about to say that. Everybody says, "Oh, Khabib has gone against wrestlers and grapplers." Yeah, but Tony is a master off his back. Yeah. Like, he's one of the best off his back.
And I think his elbow strikes from the bottom as well. You know, all this type of stuff.
You know, like, I'd love to see, not saying he beat him or not beat him, just every grappler worth his salt says,
I want to see how Khabib, what I would like to see is how Khabib would have solved that puzzle. That for me. Or how Tony would have, like, because we know what Khabib does, right? He, you know, closes the distance, take down, grind you up against the cage, you know, side control, mounts, wraps the legs, starts to ground and pound, work that whole kind of scenario. Now, with Tony's wrestling background as well, I'm not saying it's just the same as Khabib's, but I'm saying he has wrestling, and plus he's got the whole working with his back. It's just been interesting, especially at his peak. I think I don't know what happened to Tony after, you know, all those postponements, and then I think, who did he fight after that? I can't remember. That he lost to. He lost against Gaethje, right?
Was it Gaethje?
No, I don't think it's.
I don't think he lost.
Who was it? Yeah, Gaethje. It was Gaethje, right? Yeah, Gaethje beat him. Yeah.
It was. Oh, okay.
It was Gaethje beat him.
I'm off myself.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like I said, it was just interesting just to kind of. But anyway, I digress, bro. Go on.
No problem. No, it's an interesting subject because it was the fight that every grappler wanted to see.
Oh. But broke our hearts, man.
Yeah, it did. It really did. But it's like I said, I got fascinated with the self-defense part of or jiu-jitsu in MMA. It's still a fascination of mine. Yeah. And that, you know, the reality of what would work. You know, if you're in MMA, it's a clinch-based game. If you do not clinch your opponent in MMA when on the ground, you're gonna get struck. Yeah. And these are professional fighters who are pros at ground and pound. You better figure out that rhythm. And that struck me, you know what I mean? And so back to when I started, I'll never forget, I'm extremely flexible.
You showed me last time, man.
Yeah, I could do a full loader, off my head and stuff. So I remember one day I was playing guard, and I'm a brand new jiu-jitsu guy. And one day playing guard, and one of the guys was on top of me, and he broke my guard, and I'm on my couch right now, so he had my foot like this.
Whoa.
And, like, he just had it like that. And my professor looked at me, and he said, "Is that your foot?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And we kind of stopped rolling. And I'm like, "Yeah." And later on, he told me, he's like, "Hey, you ever heard the name of Eddie Bravo?" And, you know, immediately, like, everybody probably.
Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
Like, check the pecs. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So exactly. Oh my God. So I'm like, Johnny Bravo. He's like, "No, Eddie Bravo." He goes, "Look, when you get home, get on YouTube and look up Eddie Bravo. I think you'd enjoy that. You know, as flexible as you are, that'd be interesting."
So this is what kind of Eddie Bravo was it? Was it Metamoris Eddie Bravo? Was it like what year was this?
Oh, this is 2015.
15. So when did he fight Metamoris against Hoyler, bro?
I think he just did that.
He just did that, right? When he murked Hoyler's knee. Do you remember?
Yeah. Everybody talks about it was a no, it wasn't. Like, if that was a points match, you never saw someone get. He
survived.
Like, I'm talking about. Wow, that was what really, because Eddie tapped him out as a brown belt.
Yes.
in ADCC. See,
In Brazil. In Brazil as well, right?
In Brazil.
Yeah.
This is the part where people seem to forget how good Eddie Bravo actually is.
Yeah.
Royler Gracie, let us not forget, this is a man that nobody was scoring points on, let alone tapping out. This brown belt, nobody knows the name of, ends up on the mat with Royler Gracie. This guy got so many stripes on his black belt already, right? And he just triangle chokes.
Mad.
And, you know, people call it, even Royler called it a fluke, you know, but people call it a fluke. Anybody that knows the grappling game, especially jiu-jitsu, there are no flukes when it comes to submissions like that. There's no flukes. You don't just snap on, transition to submission like that. So people were doubting. They were saying 10th Planet's bogus. It's not real. It doesn't work. He got lucky. Even people who usually know there's no luck in submissions like that. The second match is what really made people go, okay, there's something to Eddie Bravo's style and system of jiu-jitsu. Because before Danaher and them were even calling it a system, Eddie Bravo called it the 10th Planet system, because it very much is a systematic way of viewing jiu-jitsu. And he proved it to the world. You murked Royler Gracie with sweep after sweep after sweep, taking his back nearly, getting the neck cranks. It was just ridiculous, that match. Like, wow. So,
but Royler was tough as well, man.
Huh?
Royler was tough not to tap to that.
Oh, yeah. Well, people said his knee popped.
Yeah, because even Eddie said it. Eddie said that, like, I heard his knee, like, you know,
if you remember, the announcers at Metamoris were saying, you're going to have to choke him out. He's not going to tap. He's never going to let that happen again. He will let his whole leg break before that happens. Yeah. And you saw that. You saw that. Any 100%. Other human being tapped. So, back to my professor saying that, you know, he kind of opened the floodgates. So, you know, he really did a job on me with that, because immediately I fell in love with the 10th Planet system. Immediately, I was like, oh my God, I'm loving jiu-jitsu. I'm doing it every day. I signed up for the teen MMA class just to learn the skills. But jiu-jitsu was my heart. So after about 9 months or something like that, doing like MMA, you know, Muay Thai, like figuring out how to do that, I just wanted to stick to jiu-jitsu, and I wanted no gi. I was the no gi guy of the BTT gym, right? Anytime I could take off the gi, I was like a toddler taking off his clothes. You know what I mean? Like, pulling that thing off, you know? It's like, you know, okay, everybody want to roll? Like, you want to do no gi? Yeah, fling that thing off.
We've got a few guys like that at the gym as well, man.
Yeah, everybody knows those guys. They're always like, oh, let's just get in the rash guards. Open mat, I'm there like forcing people to know no gi. Like, I didn't even bring my gi just to make sure somebody would be like, okay.
There's one thing I don't ramp with, Daniel, though, man.
What's that?
There's one thing we don't ramp with over here, man. You know what ramping is? It's a Jamaicanism, yeah? Ramping means we don't mess with.
Okay, what's
that? Those guys with the spats, man.
Oh, no, I'm the same way.
Especially when you get like north-south. Excuse me, sir. Please.
Bro. Trust me, I'm the same. Listen, I wear specs. Wear some shorts on your specs.
Exactly, bruv. Or even do what Eddie does and put a gi bottoms on or something, man.
Yeah.
They come in looking like a Power Ranger, man. That is too much, man.
Bro. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, bro, would you really?
Please.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's
low samaht.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Yeah. We don't do that here. Yeah. We don't do that. So, but
so were you doing both gi and then 10th Planet at the same time, or you kind of just left one and then?
Well, yeah, it's weird how it happened, to be honest with you, and I'll make a long story short. I basically started just, like I said, obsessed with jiu-jitsu. I'm the guy that literally would go home and just spend hours in looking at videos and trying to figure it out. Yeah. I got one of those grappling dummies, and I would just drill everything. I found Eddie Bravo's book, Mastering or Advanced Rubber Guard.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I bought the book. I bought Mastering the Twister. I bought Jiu-Jitsu Unleashed. I was looking at his videos. I was obsessed with every gi, no gi, but I was mostly just no gi.
Yeah.
I learned the 10th Planet system as much as I could on my own. I had no formal teaching in it, so it was trial and error. I started playing lockdown. I started playing rubber guard. I started playing the truck. I started becoming the 10th Planet guy, even though I wasn't 10th Planet official.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew, you get in my guard, you're getting put in rubber guard. If I get half guard, I'm going to lockdown. I started doing competitions and tapping people left and right in lockdown submission called the electric chair. Like, I actually have a highlight reel, just wrecking people with the electric chair.
Where's these
Rubber
highlight
guard
reels,
thing.
man?
Huh?
Where's these highlight reels? I want to see them, bro.
It's on my personal page.
Oh, Zach, bring them up, bro.
So it's
while Daniel's like explaining the
Daniel
stuff.
Bin Yusuf 10P. And there's a black and white one way in the bottom.
Okay, he's gonna bring it up in a sec. Yeah, he's gonna bring it up. So so you're doing this. Okay, let's have a look, man.
Yeah, there's some stuff way at the bottom.
Right at the bottom.
Way down. Yeah, it's gonna take some time. It's not none of those. It's down, 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 down. So let's see. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, you're gonna have to keep scrolling. I've been on Instagram, so it's been a while since I was locked up. So,
yeah,
there's some of those ones.
Oh, Dean Lister.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
OG, man.
Oh yeah, I'm with Dean Lister.
I love Dean Lister, man.
I was asking him about the 10th Planet system, what he thinks. So watch, scroll down. I'll tell you which one. You could hit any one of those. These are the earlier days, even when I was in BTT.
Imran, you're not invisible, bro. Yo, I can't see you, bro. Thank you, bro. Imran's what's it called? Bewitched, man.
Oh, he's bewitched. Yeah. So you see the electric chair.
So I see that, bro.
Just
so you've got the leg on. Isn't that a banana split, shoulder, bro? So you've kind of underhooked the leg, right?
Yeah. And I was just getting, and that, by the way, this is my early days in jiu-jitsu. So I wasn't even, in my view now, I wasn't good at it.
I see the BTT shorts, bro.
And look, I even throw up a 10th Planet symbol, even though I wasn't 10th Planet yet. So you could see that. Similar.
Okay, what's this one? Talk us through this, bro.
That was me actually. I think
just
became a blue belt. So I got him with like a mounted guillotine on that. I was trying to get a Kimura. Just switched that, went to the side, really cinched it in. This is early days. Even that, put him in honey hole. I was gonna go for the Texas cloverleaf, but he rolled me right off the mat.
Right.
Something that I don't like that some grapplers do because they know that you're gonna get a reset.
Did he tap?
So it's like
Did he tap?
No, because like I said, he rolled off the mat.
Oh, I see.
Look, I'm like, oh yeah, really? So
that's another guillotine. Oh, you're at the bottom.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get a guillotine on you, right? No, mounted.
He tried getting a choke in, but it wasn't working.
So pause it. You can't even pause Instagram, innit? So his legs are open like this, right?
Yeah, what it is I do a lockdown on one leg, then I go underhook, that other leg, and I bring it over my shoulder, right around the knee.
Right.
And then I straighten you out and curve you.
So where's the tap?
I'm forcing you to do a full split.
Right. So that's where the tap is.
Yeah. And if you notice with this guy, I just pulled guard and went right into it because I was like, he's going to fall right into it.
I see. Yeah. Boom. Got the lockdown. You're searching for the underhook. I can see.
I just would slap his arm out the way so I didn't get choked. See, I extend his legs, roll his leg over.
Okay.
See, get the underhook.
Okay,
get the knee line. And if you notice, he turns extremely red from pain.
Oh my God.
And once I get above the knee, I stretch him out and curl it.
He needs to get a new groin after that, man.
So where's the pain? The pain is in the groin.
It's in the groin. It's in the groin. Basically, like, if you imagine being forced to do a split against your will.
Right.
And I'm completely like
straight
making you do a full split. If you go up more to the videos at the beginning, right there. If you want to see a highlight, this is more right. Nope. The other one.
The other one.
Nope, not that one. That's with Eddie. That one. This is more 10th Planet system. I went to rubber guard.
Yeah.
But the guy actually postured out before I could transition. And if you want to see some really, this one actually became almost like really posted on all types of different pages. I did like an outside lockdown. Instead of taking his back, rolled right into a calf slicer. And that's at blue belt, and he was a purple belt. I went up a league. So
it's like I feel like you learned kind of astaghfirullah, but like some sort of like witchcraft or something, and then you're kind of like
that's what people the dark arts.
Yeah. Those guys are they? Those guys, they're from South Africa, right? Dark arts.
Oh, yeah. There is actually a 10th Planet type thing that's called dark arts, but I joke around just saying like 10th Planet itself is the dark arts.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorite kind of moves. This particular one is I tried going for an armbar, almost had it, but he really popped up. And still, it was like I was almost in his guard, but I had enough bend, got out, and I knew he was going to go for my legs. So I just tried to keep my arms and legs safe. See it pushing him away?
Yeah.
And then I go for a reverse calf slicer by way of the back. And you'll see me singe it right now.
Oof.
So
he must
definitely
have been
like
screwing.
wizardry.
Yeah, he must have been screwing that guy, man.
Oh, it hurts so bad, by the way. And if you see like a lot of these go up. There's some of these are all famous black belts. Even right there again. No, that's the same video. Go up, across. No, that one. Yeah.
This one here?
Yeah, either one. That one too. Either one's good. Sorry. But similar scenarios, like, did some rubber guard. Like this guy's an MMA guy. I actually happen to know him now. And really tough guy, strong. It was hard to break him down. But eventually, I wanted to break him down.
So what you aiming for here? What are you trying to do?
I wanted to get guard I wanted to break him down, but he was extremely strong. Then I noticed he wanted to grab my wrist and kind of play that chicken wing behind the back.
Oh, right. To go underneath the...
Yeah, grab my arm.
Yeah.
But I kind of like, at one point, I felt like it was hard to get guard. I always want to control someone's arms, but I noticed he kept doing that. So I said, okay, he's going to grab my arm. I kind of knew there was a possibility, and then I just cinched in the rubber guard. Went in for double bagging, and I knew that I could put my leg around. He was going to push it, but once I could zoom around, boom.
Oh.
Immediate omoplata. I'm always trying to go underneath the arm. I kind of flare my fingers so I could grab both arms so he can't roll out. And for him, later on, he told me that it was like really hurting his arm because I just was not letting go.
So you've got omoplata here, and then you kind of, oh, right. You've got his other shoulder.
You straighten the leg, and you go the opposite way, my angle, to just jack him that way. See? And again, I'm trying to be underneath his arm. He almost went under, and I was prepared for that. I thought I'd get side control, but then I could go underneath his arm again, flaring my fingers. Really good technique if you like the omoplata, because if you can grab his arm, they can't roll out. And this was just buying time. I tried getting around his neck, but he's extremely, extremely strong. Again, I was in a purple belt division, although I was a blue belt, and right here,
So what happened here? Time over?
No. I gave him a full-on omoplata. I bent his
arm tapped,
really far back. Yep, he tapped. So...
Okay, yeah, so interesting, man. So you've gone to... So you've... So when did you fully, ditch the gi completely?
It's really a funny story. Again, I was about to be promoted to a purple belt in the gi.
Right.
Under Joe Kowalski, who's a very good friend still, who was a Roger Wu black belt, BTT. And I started making a decision that I wanted to further myself in the 10th Planet system.
Yeah.
And similar to jiu-jitsu itself, if you're going to learn something, you got to learn it from its source. You know, if you're not going to learn rubber guard, lockdown, truck, all these 10th Planet, moves, as well as the system itself, by people that don't play it. You know, it's no different from learning jiu-jitsu that way. You know, you could watch jiu-jitsu in the UFC, or watch jiu-jitsu matches, but unless you've been in it and
from the source,
professional, you know, you're not going to learn it from that person who just watched it and assumed in it. So I was really the guy in my area doing that stuff with a few other guys, like a guy named Dwayne and Josh, and but all of us were not officially 10th Planet. And one day I made a decision when I asked about the 10th Planet. It was 2 hours away, because originally there wasn't, and then one got opened under Pat Campagnola out of 10th Planet Springfield, Mass. And that's 2 hours away from me. And I went for the grand opening, and I loved visiting. And it was just the group of guys, the best group of guys, high level grappling too. I mean, oh my God, just amazing, right? I loved it over there. And I made a decision. Said, if I'm going to learn this, I have to go 100. So I asked Pat, if I were to join your gym and I made it once a week, tried to double up classes as much as I could, would that be okay? And he was fine with that, understanding, you know, how far I would have to drive. 2 hours after work, 2 hours back at home around 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
And I think that also for him, and he mentioned it before, you know, that amount of dedication to wanting to be part of it, you know, was worth looking into, for him. Like, okay, this guy's really making an effort, got to give him a chance. So he said, okay. So I knew I was going to receive my purple belt, and I actually told the professor at Brazilian Top Team, I'm going to go to 10th Planet before I receive my purple belt. And it was out of respect, because I thought it was just really wrong
to take
it and run, because I knew I was going to run already. So I actually had remained a blue belt. I was remaining a blue belt, and I watched everybody that I came up with in jiu-jitsu receive their purple belt. And I was like 2 years. And these are all guys that I roll with, and we go back and forth, and I came up with them. Some of them I started jiu-jitsu after me, and they were all getting ranked. And, you know, of course, you know, it's not about the belt, but naturally that's going to be like, oh man, like, okay. But for me, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So I became part of 10th Planet.
You know, when you go to 10th Planet, sorry, I've got so many questions about 10th Planet, man. But say, for example, you're a black belt in gi, or a brown belt, or a purple, whatever it is. And then you basically start with in a 10th Planet's gym, yeah? Do you start back at white belt?
No, not always. It depends on the instructor and you and what you want to do. I've seen some people actually say, I want to be a white belt. Okay. I want to learn the system. But usually, most gyms do no gi and gi.
Yeah.
And I've seen more 10th Planets where it's, if you are from a legitimate jiu-jitsu school that's recognized, you know, like, and you can see, like, the guy's good, you know, he has basic fundamental understanding. Most of the time, they just accept you as the belt you are. Okay. I don't think that goes the case with black belt. You're not going to just walk into a 10th Planet gym and be a black belt in the 10th Planet system. Yeah. From my knowledge, you'd have to, you know, get a 10th Planet black belt to be a 10th Planet black belt, from my knowledge.
So I think Joe Rogan's got 2 black belts, right? He's got one from Machado and one from Eddie, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I mean, so for me, they accepted me. I was a blue belt, and they accepted me as a blue belt. But that could also be, you know, Pat knew my knowledge, and he's seen me before. But he also recognized that Brazilian Top Team is a legitimate jiu-jitsu academy. Yeah. You know, good lineage, good jiu-jitsu. I can't speak for other, you know, gyms, and even I can't speak for a 10th Planet officially. But that's just, I've noticed that if you come from a legitimate gym, at least as a lower belt, that's usually what I saw happen. And sometimes I've seen guys even come in with their belt, and they'll just get it when they get it, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And it was a little sometimes like weird to see like everybody that started jiu-jitsu after me getting their belts, and I'm still a blue belt. And, you know, but I can't, that was my decision. and my instructor, Pat Campagnola, is amazing. And, looking back in retrospect, I'm so glad he did things the way he did, because he watched me very carefully. And when it was time, I got my purple belt in the 10th Planet system. And, for him and all 10 planets around the world, from what I see, without a doubt, it's about quality. It's not about you've done your this many years on the mat. No, it's do you understand what you're doing? Can you apply it in your actual jiu-jitsu and in competitions? In most 10th Planet schools, you want to get your belt, learn the 10th Planet warm-ups. I know you guys have probably seen them, the whole flows.
That's what I love about it. That's what I love about 10th Planet, because I come from obviously that we run a gym called Legion, and we have a wrestling program and all this stuff. I don't know if you know about this, but or follow us at all on.
I do.
You do, yeah. I don't want to. What's the word? Assume that you do. So that's why I asked it. But
I actually love you guys.
And I appreciate that, bro. We love you too, man. So I remember when we first started, I think introducing jiu-jitsu, Dr. Amir was fascinated with Eddie Bravo and the whole 10th Planet system. Like, just because it was unconventional. Because, as you know, jiu-jitsu is very, very, very political, right? So if you're not affiliated with someone, and we had obviously jiu-jitsu instructors come and go, and so we just didn't know where we fit in the community. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because we were wrestlers, and you kind of labeled as that, a wrestling gym, but we really wanted to combine our grappling style. So Dr. Amir basically looked at the whole 10th Planet system. We still, like Fridays, we're going through a leg lock system. It does include a lot of Eddie Bravo stuff, honey in a hole, a twister. Like I said, twisters there's a wrestling move that's similar. Obviously, Eddie's tweaked it and made it into a submission, but we do know that twister is a wrestling. So there is that kind of synergy with wrestling. So yeah, and what I really loved about it was the fact that when he says system, it's actually systemized, which is there's flows, one goes into another. The warm-ups are very kind of, not choreographed, but they're made in such a way that it's repeatable, Yeah. And when something's repeatable, you're more likely to pull it off in live sparring, innit? Like, you're able to get into these positions. Like watching your fights just now, I can tell that you've done that hundreds of times. Drilled it thousands of times.
Yeah.
Do you get me? So as soon as the person puts their hand there, I'm in that system now. So I'm going to go through this flow. And then, he's done this. I'm going to jump onto this other flow.
That's actually exactly it. And that's one of my fascinations with 10th Planet, besides just the, the moves and, using certain amounts of flexibility in some areas. But, a lot of people don't know, you don't have to be so flexible. It's better. You can actually do, like rubber guard, for instance, without flexibility.
You were telling me,
a lot of people don't know that. They think you do rubber guard off your back and injure themselves and all that stuff. And, you get then you start getting that thing where people say, it doesn't work. Rubber guard is garbage. It's like, because you've never been put in it by somebody that really knows how to do it. They got it off the internet, and, you injure yourself because somebody learned it off the internet from watching without properly learning it. You want to see high level rubber guard. Look at Jeremiah Vance, Eddie himself, you want to see stuff like that high level, like rubber guard, Ben Eddie. We've seen this stuff, Marvin Castell, Gio Martinez, Boogie Martinez, really phenomenal stuff. But the warm-ups really fascinated me as well, because I'll never forget Ben Askren was on the Joe Rogan podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I remember he actually said the state of drilling in jiu-jitsu is atrocious. And I know everybody loves to bag on Ben Askren because of MMA fights or these other kind of fights he's been involved in. You can rag on Ben Askren all you want, but grappling wise, most of the guys that talk trash about him would get wrecked by him.
Yeah, 100%.
He would double leg take down them, smash them on the ground, and do what he wants with them, and that's a fact. When he entered a boxing match, he's not a boxer. He's, like his grappling you can't shake a stick at it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And he was right. The state of drilling in jiu-jitsu is atrocious. Most drilling in jiu-jitsu, you go to any average jiu-jitsu academy, and basically what it is, whatever. Okay, so forgive me. That's nasty Brazilian. Yeah, you can edit that out if you want. Portuguese, very bad words. It's not my language, so like I don't even.
No, you're forgiven. You're forgiven, man.
But you go into most of these jiu-jitsu academies, and it's okay. This is what we're gonna do. You're gonna grab the leg, and you're gonna do this, and that's a triangle. The guy might do this, and you do this. Okay, let's do that for 5 minutes. Go. All right. From there, what we could do is this. Okay, do this for 5 minutes and go. All right. Then if the guy does this, you could do this. Do that for 5 minutes. Go. After a little while, all right, everybody, we're gonna roll.
Yeah.
Go to a wrestling gym. You're gonna be stuck on just shooting in with your knee for like 1 month.
Yeah.
You're gonna be doing duck unders for like 1 month.
That's exactly. I'll just give you an example. Everyone's laughing because we have a set system in wrestling. Yeah. So we finished the 2-on-1 series. So I could tell you straight, like 2-on-1, pull down, take the back, 2-on-1, snatch single, wrap double, 2-on-1. Does that make sense? So you do this, then you go duck under, take the back, duck under, claw hand, duck under, back trip. So you're doing this literally for a whole month, and it's a circular system. So you finish that whole system, and you start back up to the beginning again. You just keep going around and round and round. Yeah. And then you might kind of divert maybe for 1 month and do like a specific series, like, I don't know, like a leg lace series, for example, or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's why when we saw 10th Planet, we were like, yeah, man, that's exactly like wrestling, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's exactly that. And that fascinated me because when you look at it, if you go to an average jiu-jitsu gym, you might not see a technique, whether it's a transition or submission or position, you might not see it for like another year.
Yeah.
You might not see it for another year. Whereas if you go to wrestling, there's a system of how they do it, and it's going to repeat itself. You're going to see it again. You will see it one way or another again, and that's where mastery happens. Drilling. And that's why Ben Askren said the state of drilling in jiu-jitsu is atrocious. And I agree. And I remember I met a red belt who actually lives in Springfield, Mass, 2 hours away from me. And he's a judo master. And he's the master of my fellow student at 10th Planet Springfield and fellow martial artist, Randy B. Hashkins. I suggest everybody look into his stuff. Underground Martial Alliance, and he's actually real karate from back in the day when it was like brutal. And he teaches self-defense. He was a CO and everything. The guy went to Japan, the whole nine. This guy's an amazing martial artist. And I remember visiting one of his instructors, judo, and I went with a lady named Bernadette and her students, and this guy sat us down and he explained that back in the day, how you learn judo, you would learn one throw and the mechanics that surround it for 1 year. And in 4 years, you probably learned 4 throws and the mechanics that circle around it. But you better believe that you became a master in those throws to the point that you could find any way in a fight to get somebody to just throw
any entry. Like Jordan Burroughs, he's going to get that blast double. Like you see it coming. Like
one way or another,
he's gonna get it. Like he'll hit it twice, 3 times. He'll hit it from you hitting it on him. He'll stuff the double and then hit you with a double. Does that make sense? So judo. I was gonna say judo because judo is known for drilling.
Yeah.
You go on any Instagram channel, and you see them, they'll drill an entry for a whole, hour. Yeah. And like you said, one throw, but how many variations, how many entries, how many, do you know what I'm saying?
Oh my.
So there's so many entries, so many takedowns and all that stuff. So that's what, I mean, Danny, listen, we can talk for another hour, but I'm going to put a pin in this. I'm pin this one, and we're going to catch up again.
Okay.
And we're going to go deep into jiu-jitsu this time, because we got your backstory now.
Yeah, the Muslim Jiu-Jitsu page too. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, so now it's about the future. So we're kind of like almost up to present day. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So what's happening with the future now? You got your Muslim Jiu-Jitsu page, which you can shout out now, and then so let us know what's going on with you at the moment.
I started a page, Muslim Jiu-Jitsu, because really for no other reason that there was a need for it.
Yeah.
There was a need for it. I remember being so fascinated with jiu-jitsu and, being who I am, just a jiu-jitsu addict, but I'm also, and I don't ever like saying this because it sounds like arrogant, but also trying to be a practicing Muslim, always doing my best to practice my religion as best as possible. And, I just remember going online, looking for other Muslims who do jiu-jitsu, because I thought there must be a page, right? Muslim martial artists, Muslim MMA. There was some stuff, but it wasn't really popping off too well. Wasn't much following them. Looked like it was a dead page here and there. Muslim female fighters had a pretty going page, but I was like, okay, I'm a guy, so that, there's sometimes jiu-jitsu people. And I just decided one day, you know what? Let me make a page. If nobody, I believe that's actually one part of Rajula in Islam. If no one else in the world is willing to stand up, don't wait for the rest of the world, because that means you'll all be waiting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to practice real manhood, sometimes you have to be the first person to do something.
Yeah.
So in my area, I'm the first person to be part of 10th Planet and willing to try 2 hours away. Same thing with Muslim Jiu-Jitsu. I said, okay, if there isn't a page, I'll build it. So I built it. And so far has, much more than 1,000 followers, and I've gotten, quite a few followers. I wanted to make a point though of making the page where it was an open, page for all Muslims. And this is sometimes a sticky subject, because it's like, okay, sometimes there's women without hijab. Some people send me videos with music, and I made a point to tell people, like, because for me, yes, do I believe in hijab? Of course I do. I'm Muslim. I can't not believe in hijab. Astaghfirullah. Music being what it is, difference of opinion, but usually me, I'm like, I have my opinions, and I'm pretty, what you consider strict, with my religion, but I also believe in giving other people excuses. And if I'm going to be strict, I'm strict with myself.
Yeah.
So, for people who might learn about Muslim Jiu-Jitsu from this podcast, I left it purposely open, where I never said it's Islamic Jiu-Jitsu, it's Muslim Jiu-Jitsu. And I wanted to make it open so that all Muslims who do Jiu-Jitsu, regardless of how strict their practice might be, will get to know each other. So if we want to talk about hijab, not hijab, music, not music, you can discuss that with each other on its own time. But this is literally, I wanted to make it a forum almost, where all Muslims, regardless, as long as you identify as Muslim, we can get together, we can know each other. So if you're Sister Aisha who wears hijab, you can learn about Sister, Khadija who might not, but you both do jiu-jitsu and you're Muslim. And that gives a chance where you could roll together, I personally don't roll with women, but I try to keep it where it's just introducing Muslims who do jiu-jitsu.
I'll give you an example. I found out about Sister Yasmin from Qatar from your page.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So now, like seeing a sister wearing niqab who's a black belt, that blew my mind. That actually blew me, because I was looking at it I've got sisters, obviously. I've got a wife, I've got a mum. Do you know what I'm saying? And sometimes, like, there's not enough, because Muslim women guard they're not putting themselves out there like that. Does that make sense? For good reason. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Where we live in a world where they show everything is shown. Everything must be. They're trying to undress Muslim women all over the world. Do you understand? Everyone has an opinion about what a Muslim woman should do and should not do, and they should take their hijab off to get into university, and they're oppressed because they wear. But no one's actually speaking to Muslim women, and I'm doing it myself at the moment. Do you know what I mean? But like to see someone like Sister Yasmin, who's keeping her faith, keeping her principles, and also she's empowered and she's empowering other women. Yeah. And then I found out her husband was a black belt as well, which kind of blew me off because I didn't know like she was from a jiu-jitsu family basically. So, and then I learned about her husband, and then mashallah her son, who's a black belt now as well. Alhamdulillah, we've invited Muhammad Doti onto the podcast. So he's on, I think, in a few. His one will be in a Ramadan episode.
I can't wait.
Same here, man. I can't wait for that one. So if it wasn't for your page, I would not. Yes, there are things that are different of opinion. Like there's some things that, for example, I wouldn't do. Does that make sense? But I'm not here. Like we are quick as Muslims. We're quick to point out the differences. Do you understand? And sometimes that conversation has to happen in somewhere else.
Yes.
Do you get me? Like that conversation is not for there, it's for somewhere else. And then if we get educated by that, it will make those changes and that's fine. But I just feel like when I look at it, I was just speaking to someone this morning, talking about platforms. And I was speaking about, we're always looking to come to be invited. Yeah? We want to be invited on other people's platforms. I'll give you an example. As a black person, or as someone who's an Arab, or someone as a Muslim, especially because I identify as Muslim first. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Those things come after. Everything else comes after. I don't care about the other bits. Yeah? So we're always thinking, how comes we don't have any Muslim X? Or how comes there's no Muslim Y? And how comes there's no Muslim A? And do you know what I'm saying to you? And then I've never been a person that wanted to be invited to a party, bro. And when I mean a party, not an actual party, but why doesn't the BBC, for example, here have when there's a terrorist attack? Why do they always bring in these fringe people, to talk on my behalf? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then I was speaking to this guy this morning. I was going to mention his name, but maybe he didn't want me to. But I was saying, look, we need to stop trying to knock on the door and create our own houses, man, our own buildings, our own. And I was listening to The Breakfast Club a few weeks ago, and they had a doctor on there. I can't remember his name. But he said the civil rights movement in America was the worst thing to happen. This is a black doctor explaining it. He goes, the reason why, because we stopped making things for ourselves. He goes, back in the day, black people had their own bus companies, their own taxi service, their own, do you see what I'm saying? He goes, Rosa Parks, he goes, we had our own buses. Why would, like for me, I'd rather ride in a bus where I'm welcome than try and get on a bus that was whites only. Does that make sense?
Right.
So obviously it's a different perspective to what we are, the narrative that has been spun. Do you get me?
Right.
So it's basically what Malcolm X has been saying.
Yeah.
If you look at Malcolm X, what he was saying, look, we don't want to integrate.
Right.
We want our own stuff. Do you know what I mean? So, and it doesn't mean we're going to exclude you. It just means we need our own stuff. Just the same way you got your own stuff.
Absolutely.
So that's why this podcast and is very important to me, because I'm going to invite people that I'm comfortable with to talk to.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And
absolutely.
If you want to watch. If you don't want to watch, you don't have to watch, bro. I don't care if there's even 10 people watching this. For the rest of my life, I don't care. I'll still do. I've had this conversation with you for 2 hours and 40 minutes, yeah? I would never have had a conversation with you otherwise, if you know what I mean. I would never have known you if it wasn't for these platforms, right? So for me, it's more that I get, like the person I was speaking to this morning, I said, well, I get to chat to interesting people, man. That's amazing. And if people watch it, that's perfect, man. If they don't, then I don't really care, man. Do you know what I mean? So that's for me is like when I heard that you had some issues and you were like thinking of knocking it on the head, like we say here, like stopping it or handing it over. Sometimes we have to pivot, Daniel. Do you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we start something one way, but we might have to pivot. Do you get me? So you might, maybe it's a thing that you might have to pivot later on, or maybe you carry on like this or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's important, whatever it is you do, it's important that you understand why you did it in the first place. Sometimes we get caught up in the day-to-day of running something, innit? And, and sometimes we're like, oh, like even to like thinking about doing this, like I don't get paid for any of this stuff, all the equipment and everything. And we kind of pulled it out by bootstraps. And my business has suffered as a result of this, doing this. Yeah. And alhamdulillah, this is something we know we've got to do a sacrifice for it to kind of move forward. Like you said, if no one's doing it, then we should stand up and do it ourselves. Exactly. Bro. Yeah. So
I agree.
And inshallah, hopefully, I want to, and if you're happy to do it, organize another episode later. We can talk real grappling stuff, real jiu-jitsu stuff, you know. You can go through your whole 10th planet. And we can do a regular one, and we'll figure out some sort of format that we can, you know, work together on, inshallah. And I think it worked really well. I mean, I thought it'd be a bit weird speaking to you through Zoom, but it felt like you're in the room almost, you know. The only thing I can't do is make you a cup of tea, inshallah, bro. But maybe one day.
I wish.
One day, inshallah. Who knows?
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I hope
so to wrap this up, is there anything you want to end on? Or anything you want to...
That was basically it. I mean, like, as far as, you know, being that most of the listeners, from what I understand, are usually Muslims, alhamdulillah. And who actually, somebody who's non-Muslim, a few people are going to be watching this because I had told some guys, like,
alhamdulillah.
Sorry, actually get out his phone and follow it.
MashaAllah.
So,
but this is, again, I just wanted to just repeat something, Daniel, is this is not a Muslim podcast. This is a podcast run by Muslims.
I like it.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
It just so happens that I'm a Muslim. But I started this podcast, I think, because we get stuck in this thing about identity, innit? Like, I'm a Muslim regardless, whether with this podcast or not, right? And sometimes I don't want you to watch this because I'm Muslim. I want you to watch this because it's interesting.
Absolutely.
That's my thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, sometimes, oh, it's a black-owned business, yeah? Or it's a Muslim-owned business. Okay, but is it good?
Absolutely.
Is the product good? Is the service good? That's what's going to get people to come and watch and participate and do all that stuff. So I thought I'd mention that, inshallah.
I'm hoping that they will, more so, you know.
Inshallah, bro.
But like, yeah, just basically in closing, you know, like if people want to check out the page, Muslim Jiu-Jitsu, my own page, that's my personal page. They don't have to check that out.
We'll put it in the description. We'll put it in the description in the show notes as well, man. So
inshallah, you know,
inshallah.
And you know, like I said before, I try to keep it pretty open so that everybody feels that they have a place to showcase their jiu-jitsu, and you know, so that Muslims can know other Muslims. Like I kind of look at Muslim jiu-jitsu like an online phone book.
Yeah.
And you know, showing the directory of Muslims around the world that happen to be doing jiu-jitsu. You just get to see their videos and stuff like that. But that's why I always want to add a tag. That way we got our little phone book. You know, if you want to know about any brother or sister that's doing jiu-jitsu, go to Muslim Jiu-Jitsu. Inshallah, you'll find them. If you're not part of it, you can join. Similar to you, I make no money off of it. It was something that I felt that should have been done a long time ago, and perhaps there'll be changes in the future. Perhaps not. You know, I'm still looking into that. Inshallah. And you know, the biggest blessing is meeting people like you guys.
Definitely, man. And on that note, let's end it here. Daniel, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for spending 2 hours, 45 minutes with us. And you know what? I'm going to make it, let's not edit too much. Let's just put it out there raw.
I'm not editing nothing.
Yeah, we'll edit the bit that, obviously, when I went use the restroom, we can edit that bit out. But apart from that, like, we're going to keep it raw. We're going to try and keep long form in it, like keep it, you know, natural. And to everyone out there who's listening, thank you very much. You got to the end. Congratulations. You'd have laughed, you would have cried, you'd have learned something. And on that note, from me, I'll see you on the next one.